When our guy arrives for his first class as the new professor at the Magic Academy, all the students look at him with suspicion. They're convinced he's just a joke who doesn't really know anything. So Rudiger decides to start the lesson by demonstrating a simple spell. He explains that he's going to teach them how to cast spells faster than anyone else. At that moment, the top student raises her hand and says, "That's impossible." "There's a limit," she explains. "A threshold beyond which it's simply impossible to cast a spell any faster." The students immediately start whispering among themselves, waiting to see how this new professor embarrasses himself. But instead of arguing, Rudiger calls her to the front of the class and asks her to cast a firebolt as fast as she possibly can. As Flora casts the spell, Rudiger measures the time. She finishes in less than 5 seconds, and all the students are amazed by how fast she does it. But our guy isn't impressed at all. He simply tells her that was too slow. Flora can't believe her ears, and neither can the rest of the class. Could he really do it faster? Rudiger calmly raises his wand and instantly casts the exact same spell. The students can't understand what just happened or how he managed to do it in less than half a second. As for Flora, she can't even find the words to respond. Now everyone is asking the same question. Who the heck is this professor? So here's how his story began. The young professor walks on the train platform, heading toward the train. The station master checks the tickets of passengers and welcomes them. After showing his ticket, our hero gets inside the train. He finds his cabin and sits in front of an old gentleman. The train starts moving toward its destination, and it's snowing outside. Our protagonist starts reading a book while the old man looks at today's newspaper. Rudiger gets delighted when he reads the news of the end of the Civil War. Both exchange words of happiness regarding the end of the Civil War and introduce themselves to each other. Gerard guesses from Rudiger's name that he belongs to nobility, and the boy confirms it by saying it's fallen, and he is heading toward the capital. Gerard is surprised to know that he is a professor at a magic academy. He assumes that the boy is a very skilled professional. They keep talking about the Civil War and the person who plays the main role in it. They enjoy each other's company. Suddenly, they hear a loud blast. Both are surprised and scared. Rudiger opens the door and looks outside. There is no one here, not even a single passenger. The old gentleman shows his concern about the power of the attackers because the train is protected by powerful magic. The blast is very close to their cabin, and as both men are standing and wondering what is happening, suddenly a robber jumps into their cabin by breaking the window glass, creating a panic situation. The boy hits the robber with his cane and knocks him out. As both gentlemen think about what to do, the intruder suddenly jumps up and shows his suicide vest. Within 2 seconds, there is a large explosion, and smoke is everywhere. There is only the old gentleman standing in the cabin in front of a large hole in the wall. He is sad about the loss of the young professor. In a mix of emotions, sadness and anger, the old man removes his mask and appears as a young and strong warrior. Rudiger chooses the name Machiavelli from one of his previous lives just to disguise himself, as he constantly changes his identities. This time, he escapes from the princess's army by becoming an old man. He is still thinking about the young Rudiger and feels sad for his death. The way the robbers attack a train and one of them blasts himself just to kill them makes him think they are not common train robbers. They must be psychos and not worried about their own lives. The train inspector enters the cabin and wonders what is happening. Our mercenary tells the train officer to stay away from here because it's dangerous. The train officer is concerned about the safety of other passengers and wants to evacuate them from their cabins. Our protagonist shows his doubts to the officer, grabs him by his neck, and starts inquiring about his involvement in this blast. As he tightens his grip on the neck of the inspector, the train officer attacks him with a small knife. But Rudiger is too smart for him and controls him with ease. As Rudiger is busy in interrogation, he suddenly hears gunshots and quickly jumps to the train floor. As he tries to figure it out, he notices the train officer is lying dead on the ground, and 4 armed robbers are inside the cabin. The leader of the intruders is surprised to see him alive even after the blast. Our protagonist challenges them. The intruders point their guns at him and try to shoot him, but to their surprise, their guns are jammed, and they can't shoot a single shot. Rudiger opens a power circle of magic. The intruder's leader understands that he is a powerful mage and probably a level 4 mage. Our mercenary laughs at them and says it's useless to attack him. Rudiger makes his escape and decides to jump out of the moving train. The evil leader orders Hansen to check for him, but to their surprise, the warrior is gone. They hear footsteps on the train's roof. Their leader orders them to go after the warrior and send some of his men to the first carriage. The intruders start shooting at the train's roof where our protagonist is trying to save his life. Rudiger attacks back with his magic spells and kills a few of the attackers. Now the tables are turned, and the attackers are scared and in a panic. Their leader quickly realizes that the boy is separating their carriage from their train. Now he regrets his failure to recognize his opponent's powers. As the gang leader shouts loudly that he will find him and kill him, he realizes the strong presence of powerful magic near him. To his surprise, our protagonist appears in front of them and throws a strong and bright magical light at them. In a second, all intruders fall dead to the floor, only their leader stands. But he loses one arm and half of his face, and he is badly injured. In anger, the gang leader curses him and, in a painful voice, cries. Rudiger stands strong and says the gang leader tried to kill him first. Now Rudiger returns the favor to him. He was trying to escape but threatened him by saying he was going to find him and kill him, so he returns. Our hero notices someone cut the gang leader in half from his backside. He wonders who that could be. A beautiful female warrior appears from the intruder's back, smiles, and assures them to not worry as she's here. In the first carriage, a group of intruders is surprised to see a royal soldier. The young royal soldier attacks the intruders with his magic and kills them all in the blink of an eye. The same thing happens in the second carriage. Both soldiers report to their captain, who is present right now with our protagonist. In a few seconds, a third soldier reports to their captain that the whole train is secure and the passengers are safe. Young female Vice Captain Veronia DeVille congratulates her soldiers and orders them to escort the passengers to the next station. Meanwhile, Gennard is thinking about Rudiger, a young, skilled professor who he wasn't able to save from robbers. Now Gennard turns his attention and thinks about Theron Academy and how he can save himself from that secret association. In the third carriage, Remulus, a police officer, enters and inquires about the situation. Veronia introduces herself to the officer and informs him that they have already eliminated the attackers. The police inspector shows concern about the fast attack and how they were able to capture a magically protected train so quickly. Even if a mage is among the intruders, it's not possible for them to capture it too quickly without inside help. Veronia also thinks that it's impossible with an inside informer. But it's just a possibility, we are not sure about it. Now the police officer turns his attention toward Rudiger and thinks that if he identifies himself he can go, but he must be honest. Our protagonist thinks before he speaks that he did everything right. The only thing wrong is his appearance. Right now, he doesn't look like a person in his late 40s. He calculates the presence of the police and royal soldiers on the train, and if they identify him, he will get into trouble with serious consequences. But to the surprised police officer, who is checking the train records, he mistakenly identifies him as young Rudiger Chelsea, who just died during the blast. Our protagonist confirms his identity as Rudiger, and tells the officer that old Gennard fell from the train during the blast. The female captain confirms his innocence by testifying in his favor as she saw him fighting the terrorists. Now, our protagonist finds his new identity. To her surprise, Veronia finds out from Rudiger's records that he is appointed to Theron Academy. Both look at the young warrior and smile at each other, confirming it. The warrior is quite happy with his accidental new identity, and the train reaches the capital. At the capital train station, Gennard, who is now Rudiger, thanks both the officer and the vice captain, and starts walking away from them. He is happy that he escaped because of his new identity and looks just like young Rudiger. Outside the station, a butler is waiting for him. The butler introduces himself as an employee of the academy, and that he is here to take him there and show his concerns about the attack on the train. On the way to Theron, Rudiger starts thinking about the trouble he is in. The appearance of the butler is also suspicious, as he looks strong and sharp. He sorts out that it's safer for him to continue as Rudiger, as long as no one finds out his true identity. In a short while, they reach Theron. Rudiger is surprised by the size of the building. Theron's employee informs him that the Chancellor is waiting for him, and that they are going to meet His Highness right now, and guides him toward the Chancellor's office. The warrior walks straight toward it. When he enters the large building of the Chancellor's office, he sees a beautiful woman sitting behind the desk. She introduces herself as Elisa Willow, Chancellor of Theron. The Chancellor shows her worries about the attack and concerns about his safety. Rudiger explains how royal soldiers saved the train and defeated the terrorists. The young woman tells our protagonist how happy they are about his safe arrival at the academy. Rudiger rejects overthinking that women can be a threat to him, or that she may have already met Rudiger before. He sighs in relief when the Chancellor explains that it's her first meeting with Rudiger, and how much he impresses her with his handsome appearance and a flirting chat. The lady hands over the contract letter to our protagonist and explains the terms of it. It's a 2-year contract with boarding and lodging from the academy. Rudiger thinks it's a good offer, even though he plans to leave this place as soon as possible. He is surprised by the large salary they offer him. It's equal to 300 million Korean wons. The Chancellor is surprised by the terms of Rudiger and explains the benefits. But our protagonist is not surprised by the offer and stays calm, starting to think about their expectations from him. He signs the contract. The Chancellor welcomes him with a handshake. Now, he is sitting in his room and thinking he must prepare for the lectures he is going to give in 3 weeks. He also thinks about his past life and his parents, how he managed to overcome all the challenges in his life, and now he is a professor at a magic academy. He thinks self-belief is his power, and starts gathering information about the real Rudiger Chelsea. To his surprise, he finds out that he is the only child of his parents and not close to his relatives. He figures out that it's a perfect opportunity for him to start a new life and disguise himself as a professor. Now he only needs to acquire information about the subjects and the academy. But right now, he feels hungry and goes to the restaurant. In 2 weeks, our protagonist studies and searches about the academy. While he is sitting in a restaurant, a lady appears and sits behind him. She starts asking about him in a secret way and tells him that she and other members are waiting for him and wondering why he has not contacted them in the last 2 weeks. Our surprised professor starts wondering who that woman is and why she is looking for the real Rudiger Chelsea. She shows her concerns about the train attack and inquires about it. Our protagonist tells her to forget about the attack and says he needs more information about Theron. The professor is trying to get as much information as he can and wants to find out who that woman is and what it's all about, but at the same time, he wants to stay in this disguise. He continues playing as Rudiger and demands more information from her. The woman informs him about their work and progress they made. The professor senses great danger and tries to calm himself. He starts inquiring about the reason she is visiting him right now. As she replies about her worries, our protagonist takes control of the situation and demands the details about the plans. Telling the woman to never contact him again, Rudiger starts walking away from there. Now, he realizes that the young boy he met on the train is the leader of a ruthless mafia. Now, the professor is sitting in his bedroom trying to figure out Rudiger Chelsea's plan. He quickly realizes that it's a trap for him, and escaping alive from here isn't as easy as it looks. He also finds coded messages from Rudiger Chelsea, which are not easy to read. He is a genius young professor, a level 4 mage, and a member of a dangerous society. How can he escape from here? Now he understands the seriousness of the situation he accidentally put himself in. It's not only the academy he has to worry about, but also the secret order known as the Zero Order. He becomes more scared as he decodes the message, which tells him why they want to infiltrate the academy as professors. One thing worries him the most: what happens next after they achieve their target? After some thought, he figures out that if a young boy can plan that much and he's a spy, then he can escape the train attack. Now he starts making his own plan. He should stay close to the Chancellor. He thinks if he can leak information to the authorities without them knowing it's him, he must play both sides and try not to get caught. He must keep in mind that he is spending 2 years here, so he'd better get prepared for it. Inside the classroom, students are discussing the new professor who is about to give lectures. They talk about their ex-professor, and a female student named Flora wants to know more about the professor's family. The professor enters the classroom and introduces himself. He announces that, in his class, he will focus on actual battle usage beyond theory. The students start talking about this new subject. A beautiful girl inquires about the subject. Her face looks familiar to the professor. He replies, as an educator, it's his duty to teach every student equally, regardless of their year. After giving an introduction about himself and the lectures he will give, he allows the students to ask any questions they have about him. But to his surprise, no one asks any questions. As he is about to leave the classroom, a beautiful young female professor introduces herself as Selena. Rudiger wonders what she wants from him. To his surprise, she invites him to lunch. Outside the classrooms, a few professors introduce themselves to the protagonist one by one: Brino, Merida, and a few others. Among them stands a young, good-looking professor named Chris Benamore. He belongs to a noble family, and he is rude, looking down on common people. All the professors are leading professionals in their fields. Our professor suspects that one of them could be in the Zero Order. The rude noble professor refuses to stay and talk to them and leaves. He just came here to see the new teacher. Chris insults Rudiger and calls him a fallen noble, a commoner. Everyone is upset by his rude and insulting behavior. The professor invites Rudiger to lunch, and they all start walking toward the canteen. Rudiger is glad that he doesn't have to eat alone anymore. At the same time, a young lady is using her magic powers to search for information about the protagonist in detail. She is the same girl who met the professor at the restaurant. While walking toward his classroom, the professor is thinking about the students. He wonders how many students are going to show up today. As he did last time, he mentions his strict rules, assuming that maybe very few students will dare to come to today's class. When he enters his classroom, he realizes he's wrong. The classroom is full of students. He thinks maybe they mixed the first-year students with second-year students. He keeps wondering why there are so many students. The students can feel his strong personality as he enters. They discuss that he really looks like a military man. Our protagonist feels the pressure to deliver a lecture. So many students, and all of them are the cream of the crop, highly intelligent and smart. Maybe they see Rudiger as a challenge. He gathers his confidence and calms himself down. In a confident voice, he introduces himself. Suddenly, a student stands up and inquires about the subject. The professor replies in a dominating tone, sitting down and waiting until he allows anyone else to speak. Rudiger starts lecturing and surprises everyone with his skills and knowledge of the advanced subject. The students can't believe their eyes when the professor demonstrates practical skills. With his stick, he creates a magical circle and starts explaining it. Rudiger realizes many students are looking confused and want to know more about it, so he allows them to ask if they want to know more. Suddenly, many students stand up and start inquiring about the advanced magic circle. The professor explains his magic circle of manifestation in great detail. A girl named Flora stands up and shows her doubt about his technique. Flora stands up and introduces herself as a second-year student, almost challenging him by saying it's impossible. A student starts gossiping, and Flora begins inquiring, thinking she's going to put the professor in difficulty. The The professor allows her and starts by doubting his technique of opening the circle. She adds that no one before him has been able to practice it. Rudiger explains it's great, emphasizing that magic and history are still there in their old ways, but science is progressing at a fast pace. He explains how science is superior and that magic still needs to improve. He proves Flora wrong and explains that if others are not improving themselves, why shouldn't they be the ones to improve? The professor answers angrily, but Rudiger continues to explain to the class. Flora is furious and wants to prove him wrong. The professor realizes this and allows her to come up and show everyone how she can do it better than him. Flora steps up to the stage and shows her skills. She's fast and skillful. In a matter of seconds, she activates the circle and surprises everyone, including Rudiger. The professor is surprised but keeps his composure and tells Flora she's slow and needs to practice more. Rudiger tells her to pay attention, and in the blink of an eye he opens a circle and surprises everyone, including Flora. Her eyes widen as if she's looking at something impossible or miraculous. Seeing the students' surprised faces, the professor does it again, this time much faster, in only half a second. He introduces this technique as the source code. Flora is impressed by the young professor and wonders who he is. Actually, she looks more than impressed. Rudiger clears all of Flora's doubts and warns her never to disturb him during his lectures again. Rudiger takes her actions as a personal insult and imposes a penalty of 10 points on her. Everyone in class looks surprised. Flora puts her head down and starts walking toward her seat. The professor praises her flame blot and gives her 10 points just to cheer her up. Cheryl, a friend of Flora's, asks if she's all right. She replies that she's okay. Finally, Rudiger starts the lecture, and now everyone shows interest in it. The professor proves his dominance. After some time, he concludes the lecture, tells his students to review it, and leaves the room. In the classroom, an arrogant student starts mocking another student named Aiden, telling him he's Baron Phalios, a nobleman. The pretty boy walks into the room and mocks the noble family of the Baron. The Baron loses his temper, using insulting words and challenging him. However, the Baron gets scared and leaves the room. Aiden and Leo go outside together. Leo warns Aiden not to be too obvious and to understand the culture at the academy. He also informs Aiden to be careful with Flora and students like her. These students are from noble families and can create serious trouble for them, as they are commoners. They also talk about the third princess, Arendir von Exilion, who is from the bloodline of the Exilion Empire. They both agree not to get involved with royalty. During this discussion, a name also comes up, Proyden Volberg. It's a mindset of nobles to look down on them as insects. Both agree on this. Their professor walks through the corridors, still thinking about his students' reactions. He admits he wasn't expecting it. He also thinks about the source code, wondering if it's a combination of magic and science. He knows he must improve himself in order to continue teaching here. He reaches his office and is surprised to see the Chancellor there. She welcomes Rudiger and informs him about his new office space. The Chancellor wants to know whether he likes his new office. The professor can sense her interest in him. The boy also suspects what she knows about him, or if she's just trying to figure it out. The lady wants to know whether he wants more students in his class, and the professor replies that he doesn't. She also informs him about the princess in his class, but doesn't reveal her name to him. She shows her high expectations for the professor. She then leaves his office. The Chancellor is in an elderly-looking man's room. He is the same man who came to Rudiger at the train station, and the professor thought he was a butler. Here they are talking about Rudiger, and the old man is inquiring about him in detail. The Chancellor informs him about his strong character and the response of his students to his lecture. They feel satisfied. In their conversation, they also reveal that they know Rudiger is actually a stranger and disguises himself as the real professor. This shows they are above him and know everything he is doing. The old man concludes that he is not an ordinary person, otherwise he couldn't perform the way he is. Both agree to keep a close eye on him. Our protagonist is sitting alone in his office, still thinking about the Chancellor. He is doubtful about her. Does she know everything about him, or is she just curious? He forces his mind to stop thinking about her and starts focusing on his work. He starts reading the list of students, and the name of a noble family comes up, the Lumos family. While going through the list, he sees a boy's picture. He starts thinking maybe he knows him, but he can't remember from where. He isn't able to trust them completely. He still can't decide whether to stick with secret societies or trust the management of the academy. He has a lot of doubts about the real Rudiger. He could be a disguise artist and infiltrator. He looks worried about getting caught, so he decides to go with the flow and continue teaching here. Suddenly, a postman appears at his door, hands him a letter, and leaves. It's a patrol schedule. It's his turn for patrol duty. He remembers it in his agreement. In the academy gymnasium, students are practicing different sports. A royal girl, Dinama, orders a commoner girl to leave, but the girl stands her ground. The noble girl is rude and disrespectful to her fellow commoner students. Dinama throws a magic spell at the poor girl. Suddenly, our protagonist intervenes between them and neutralizes her spell. Now he wants to teach that arrogant royal girl a lesson and orders Dynama to follow him. Both of them start walking outside. The bad girl says something rude about our protagonist behind his back. Rudiger puts his hand on her shoulder and tells her to behave because he is a professor here and she is a student. Rudiger gives her a warning and leaves. After this incident, the students' love and respect for him increase even more. At night, Professor Rudiger is sitting outside on a bench, thinking about the incident. In his mind, he thinks he will last here for a maximum of 5 more days. In the morning, Rudiger is sitting with 2 female professors, having breakfast. Professor Selena brings up the story of werewolves and tells them that one of their students, who just returned from the city, saw one. Rudiger dismisses it, calling it just a rumor, and they laugh, calling it a ghost story. Miss Selena gets angry and tells them that she is researching the topic. The professor calms her down. The lady sitting next to Selena starts talking to Rudiger and praises his first lecture at the academy. She informs him that everyone is showing interest in his magic. The professor mentions the name Chris Benamor, who seems to be jealous of him. Late at night, Rudiger goes out in the city. It looks like he is waiting for the werewolf. After some time, the werewolf actually appears and tries to attack him. Rudiger easily throws the werewolf away and they start talking. It seems like they know each other. The werewolf replies that it's been a long time. The werewolf calls the protagonist Hyan Nim, and the professor calls him Hans. The werewolf and Rudiger start talking in a very friendly manner, as they have known each other for a long time. Rudiger inquires about the troubles he has been hearing about him. From their conversation, it turns out that they are close friends, and Hans has a medical condition. Whenever he gets beaten by any animal, he becomes that animal for some time. The werewolf asks the professor for the antidote, which he gives him. The werewolf turns into a handsome man, and the handsome man asks the professor who he is now. He replies that he is Rudiger Chelsea, a professor at Theron Academy. Rudiger inquires about the real professor and the secret organization known as the Order. His friend confirms it and tells him the organization is called the Group. Rudiger asks his friend for the bag he had asked him to bring. He gives the bag to the professor. As they are talking to each other, they suddenly see a real werewolf standing on a building. Both get scared. Our professor notices something shiny on the werewolf's neck and decides to check it out. Rudiger pulls out his gun and starts walking toward the monster. As he gets closer, he notices that the werewolf is restrained by something. The werewolf attacks him but cannot reach the professor, as he places a magical circle around himself. In a matter of seconds, Rudiger knocks the monster down with his magic powers. Suddenly, the werewolf stands up and jumps away. Rudiger starts running after him. Suddenly, the police appear and start looking for the werewolf. Our brave protagonist is still chasing the monster, both jumping from roof to roof, one after another. They end up on the roof of a moving train, where the werewolf stops running and faces our boy. They make eye contact, and the professor is fearless, determined to uncover the secret behind this monster. Our hero throws stars at the werewolf, but the monster is too quick and dodges the attack. Rudiger continues to attack again and again, but he can't hit it. After throwing a few more stars, the professor realizes that it's useless to keep throwing them. Suddenly, the werewolf charges at him. It runs towards Rudiger, and when it gets too close, it jumps. But our protagonist kills it with a single swing of his sword. Meanwhile, Rudiger's friend is still waiting for him on the street. The professor returns to his friend, shows him the werewolf's head, and tells him to keep an eye on the city, informing him if any news appears. The protagonist then heads back to the academy and reads the newspaper. To his surprise, someone is still killing innocent people in the city, and he wonders if there is another werewolf. The total number of deaths in the city has reached 10, which is very surprising. Rudiger enters the teacher's canteen, and other professors are talking about him and his magic powers, as well as the lecture he gave in his class. Rudiger sits next to his lady colleague, who tells him that 2 students were attacked by an unknown assailant. One of the students, who woke up today, informs the authorities that it was a hairy monster, and they see large wounds on their backs. Suddenly, a professor informs her and the others that the chancellor is entering the building and is about to make some important announcements. The chancellor informs them all that they have information about an assailant in the academy, but no one is sure who it is. Professor Huso B. Prutag disagrees with her information and tells her she could be wrong. He thinks it's impossible because the academy is under the protection of the Exilian Empire, and both victims come from noble lineages. In his view, some commoner students are behind these attacks. Huso continues, saying that only nobles are being attacked at the academy. The chancellor feels humiliated by these remarks, and all the noble professors agree with Professor Huso. In his view, it's just a rumor and nothing more. Our protagonist feels something on his shoulder. It's a spider. When he grabs it, it turns into a small letter, which talks about the 2 test subjects missing from the lab. This news scares the professor, and he starts thinking about who is sending these messages to him and why. The letter also demands that he meet them as soon as possible. The professor is deep in thought. The chancellor keeps things straight between her and Huso by saying they are informing students about the current threat in the academy, and everyone should keep up their good work. Management will take care of the rest, and they are increasing the night patrols at the academy. After concluding her business in the meeting, she starts walking out. Our protagonist is walking towards the restaurant when he feels someone hiding in the bushes. It's a girl. He calls her out and tells her to follow him to the restaurant. Now, they are sitting face to face at a coffee table, and the professor starts inquiring about the reason for her visit. The girl introduces herself as Sanita Loshin, a student from a noble family. The professor notices her hesitation and uses magic to secure their surroundings. After that, the girl informs him about the reality of the attacks. She confirms that both attackers are from their affiliated groups and that it's a mix of cryptid tests and black magic. Our protagonist informs her that he has been promoted to Zero Order. Sanita then tells him that these students were expelled from an organization for their unethical experimentation. She wants the professor to know every detail about these incidents. The professor informs her about his previous encounter with the werewolf in the city, and that he's going to take action against the remaining ones. The professor remembers that Sanita is the girl who met him when he first arrived at the academy. Our protagonist thinks she is a very talented young girl, but can't understand why she is disguising herself as a student here. Rudiger starts worrying about her safety because he knows that once she completes her duties and responsibilities, the Order will dispose of her. With these thoughts, the professor leaves the restaurant, appreciating Sanita. Now, the young lady sits alone at her table, thinking about Professor Rudiger. In the classroom, a lady professor is giving a lecture. At the end of the lecture, she informs the students that they must stay in their rooms at night, and whoever disobeys these orders will receive demerits. At the same time, a female student is thinking about the meeting between the professor and Sanita. She is curious why they are using magic to make their conversation soundproof. She feels sad and seems to be jealous of the girl. In the classroom, two students, Aiden and Leo, are talking about the werewolf and want to find out who is behind it. Aiden is more sensible and is not willing to take any kind of risk. But Leo informs him that there is a reward for werewolves in the city if they can inform the authorities about it. In the end, they decide not to go out at night, as the lady professor makes it very clear that whoever disobeys will receive demerits. Suddenly, their classmate approaches them and starts to inquire about their conversation. Aiden leaves them alone, but Tacy wants to pick a fight with him. Leo refuses it and tells her to settle it some other way. Tacy challenges them, saying whoever catches the werewolf first wins. That bold statement from Tacy scares both boys, but Aiden accepts it, and Tacy leaves the classroom in anger. At night, our protagonist is walking alone through the streets of the city. To his surprise, he sees 3 students from his class. He reaches them, and upon inquiry, the students inform him that they are looking for the werewolf because of the reward on its head. Rudiger orders them to go back to the dorm immediately. Otherwise, they will receive 5 demerits each. The students obey their teacher. Rudiger starts walking and reaches the vicinity of the sewage treatment plant. Since the werewolf is entering the city from the sewage pipes, he enters the building. On the floor, there are footprints of 2 werewolves, one large and one small. He starts following them. After some distance, the 2 footprints separate from each other. The large one continues toward the academy, which scares our boy as he figures it out. Suddenly he hears loud shouts. He starts running toward the voices. After running for a few seconds, he sees a large werewolf attacking 2 of his female students. Our protagonist acts fast, jumps at the werewolf, and kills it with a single swing of his hidden sword. Now he looks at his students. He recognizes Renee and asks what is she doing here. To his surprise, the other one is Arendir von Exilion. Now, our protagonist is angry at both of his students and gives them 5 demerits each. Princess Arendir is not happy with the rude behavior of our professor and demands an apology from him. Rudiger refuses to apologize and orders them both to return to their dorm, but the princess is stubborn. Renee tries to calm the princess. The professor tells both girls that he is removing the demerits from them. Suddenly, a werewolf appears in front of them. The girls start crying and inform Rudiger about it. Rudiger attacks the werewolf with his hidden sword, but the werewolf starts running from him. Rudiger starts chasing it. The werewolf jumps onto the roof of a building. Our protagonist follows it and jumps onto the building roofs. Now the chase begins, from one building to another. Finally, the werewolf stops and attacks the professor. The boy uses magic to throw the monster away. They exchange punches. Rudiger dodges all the attacks. Both girls are watching the fight from a safe distance. They are surprised at the power and bravery of their teacher. Suddenly, Rudiger hits the werewolf with his cane and knocks it down. The werewolf starts falling from the roof. After some distance, the werewolf manages to control itself and stands on its feet. The girls are trying to understand the magic their teacher is using against the monster. Rudiger is surprised when the werewolf throws a large stone at him. He cannot believe that a monster like that can use tools. The werewolf jumps off the building and runs away from the professor, disappearing into the trees. Meanwhile, Aiden and Leo are wandering the forest, looking for Tacy, because she is in the forest looking for the werewolf just to win her bet. Leo wants to return, but Aiden doesn't want Tacy to get hurt just for a bet. Suddenly, they hear loud screaming from behind the bushes. They both start running in that direction. After some distance, they find Tacy standing near a sleeping baby werewolf. These students are completely unaware that a large werewolf is standing right behind them. A werewolf attacks the students. First, it throws Leo away with a hard hit. It turns to Aiden and hits him with its large claws. Aiden tries to stand on his feet. At the same time, Tacy attacks the monster in order to save Aiden, but the monster jumps at her. Aiden acts quickly and saves Tacy from the monster. Tacy shouts loudly at the werewolf that they are not going to harm it or its baby. The monster stops. It looks like it understands humans. The students are surprised. Now the werewolf isn't attacking them, meaning the monster is only protecting its baby. Suddenly, Rudiger appears and throws a magic net at the monster, capturing it. The professor is going to kill the monster, Tacy tells Aiden. Aiden and Tacy try their best to stop their teacher from killing it, but Rudiger has already made up his mind and throws a magic flame at the monster, burning it alive. After killing the werewolf, the protagonist turns his attention to his students and inquires about their presence in the forest at that time of night. The students are speechless. Rudiger orders the 3 students to return to their dorms as soon as possible. In the morning, the 3 students are sitting in their dorm room, waiting for their professor. To their surprise, Rudiger appears with the Lady Chancellor. The students are nervous and confused, understanding that the presence of the Chancellor in their dorm room isn't a good sign for them. Rudiger is angry, but the Chancellor smiles at the students. She gives them 10 demerits each, and after a few minutes of lecturing them about the possible danger, she offers them 20 merits for their bravery and support for each other in a time of danger. Rudiger is not happy with the Chancellor's soft reaction to these students. When the students leave the room happily, the Chancellor explains to the professor that the students stood by each other in danger, and no one was harmed because of him, so that's why she isn't giving them any demerits. Rudiger agrees to her and leaves the room. While sitting alone in his room, the protagonist is thinking about the werewolf. He thinks it was a real werewolf, not a humanoid. Still, it doesn't make any sense. There could be many more out there. He can still see the faces of the werewolf and its baby. His decision to kill them both is right because these monsters are killing humans everywhere. They aren't even animals. They are worse than animals. The protagonist takes a small globe out of his pocket. It's a communication device. He starts talking to someone named Hans through it. The 3 students, Tacy, Leo, and Aiden, are sitting outside their academy, talking about their experience. Aiden, the smartest among them, is still surprised that they received merits instead of demerits. He remembers the baby werewolf and the leash on its neck. It means someone is controlling these monsters. He also wants to know more about the rumor of suspicious people interested in their theory. The way Professor Rudiger killed the monsters is quite strange for them. There are possibilities that he is trying to hide some secrets from his students. Tacy isn't ready to hear anything bad about the protagonist. She rejects Aiden's thoughts and starts explaining how good their teacher is. But on the other hand, she also shows some concerns regarding Rudiger. Leo doesn't want to discuss these matters anymore and offers to join them for lunch as it's lunchtime. Tacy and Aiden agree, and they start walking toward the canteen. It's the start of a new friendship for Tacy and Aiden. Meanwhile, the professor is sitting in his office, talking to Hans through his small device. He receives information about a nearby abandoned factory where large people enter during the daytime, and many people are missing in the city. Hans also informs Rudiger that a family of 3, mother, father, and child, entered the factory and never returned. Outside the factory, 2 young men standing as guards talk about how they cannot stop parents from protecting their child once they become werewolves. The protagonist kills these 2 guards and enters the factory, where his friend is waiting for him. The professor's friend welcomes him by his real name, Hyungnim. After gathering all the details about the gang, the boy enters the factory. In a short period, Rudiger kills all the guards inside the building and starts walking toward the main room, where mafia bosses are sitting. These bosses already know about Rudiger's presence in their secret facility and are prepared for it. The protagonist enters the second room and within no time kills all the gunmen. Suddenly, an armed man appears in front of him with a huge electronic weapon attached to a large machine. But even the electric weapon can't stop the protagonist. As a powerful mage, combining elements of air and the electronic weapon, the professor easily eliminates his armor and kills him. Before entering the main room, where the insect brothers are hiding, he kills all the electronic bees, discovering they are spies for the insect brothers. Inside the room, the insect brothers are preparing for the final attack. Now they understand the power of the young boy. Inside the room, which is protected by an iron door and where many gunmen are waiting for him, Rudiger suddenly cuts off the electricity to the building. In complete darkness, the protagonist starts killing the insect brothers one by one. The guards' guns are useless. The professor cuts off one of the insect brothers' heads. To his surprise, one of the insect brothers stands up again. His hands start talking to him, and he transforms into a huge monster with many arms and legs. He starts killing his own men. The protagonist is surprised to see that he is destroying his own employees. The fight continues, and one by one gunmen die like flies. The monster is very fast and strong. It's not easy to control such power. Very soon the professor realizes that it's useless to use his 3rd rank magic on him, but he still avoids using 4th rank magic. The professor decides to use his speed to his advantage. He quickly moves behind the monster. He is so fast that the monster thinks for a second that Rudiger has escaped from the building, but to its surprise he finds him standing right behind him. Now it's time for our protagonist to use his 4th rank magic after all. In the beginning, he tries his best not to use his full powers, but now he is helpless and must use it. Outside, his friend is waiting for him when he hears a loud blast from inside. Now he knows that Rudiger has completed his mission. After a few minutes, the professor comes outside with a big smile on his face and confirms that it's finally over. In a large palace, an elderly gentleman is extremely angry with his housemaids and servants. He throws plates from his dining table at them. In anger, he screams at them. He is upset. After some time, he goes straight to his room, talking to himself about the escaped werewolves from his lab. He is happy they were killed by some stranger. Suddenly, our protagonist calls him by his name, Belbort Rixon. The old man is surprised to hear his name from a stranger in his bedroom. Rudiger grabs him by the neck and pins him to the floor. Our protagonist is upset about the werewolf's 7-year-old baby. He still remembers the boy's smiling face as he thanked him for ending his miserable life. Now the professor is here to avenge that 7-year-old boy. The old man understands the purpose of this surprising visit in the middle of the night. The old man clears his intentions by informing Rudiger that he is trying to invent a medicine that can bring back youth, and this is the only reason he is testing his medicine on these peasants. The old man never cared about the meaningless lives of the poor and common people. For him, his purpose is much superior. Our protagonist injects the same medicine into the old man's neck. The old man is in great pain and shouts at him. Rudiger explains that this is his punishment. He checks the records of the old man's laboratory. It says a small dose can turn a human into a werewolf. He is curious about what would happen if someone takes a full dose. This is his punishment. Now he has to bear the same pain. Rudiger is thinking about the young boy. The old man's face starts changing into a monster's face. Now his entire body changes into a werewolf. Hearing the old man scream from his bedroom, his servants run into the room. To their surprise, they see a monster and start throwing magic flames at him. They have no idea that they are killing their own boss. Our young professor is standing in his friend's home who looks worried about him. This time, Hyungnim wants to take a new identity for himself, a better one. After saying goodbye to his friend, Rudiger leaves his home and starts walking near the river. A large number of reporters have gathered outside the beautiful mansion. Everyone is talking about Mr. Belbort Rixon and how a large werewolf ate him alive. It took his servant 1 hour to burn the monster alive. The National Security Bureau arrives there with her 2 assistants. The Grandmaster Tarina Lionhowl is leading. As she enters the building, she orders the police and security officers to hand over all the evidence and leaves the building. Now they begin their investigation. Grandmaster Tarina finds a secret door in the wall. It's a secret vault built for hiding black money. It's strange. All the money from this place is gone. They also find out that in a short period of time, both incidents, the death of Mr. Rixon and an abandoned factory being burned down, occurred. Our young professor is sitting in his room, thinking that he has lost too much power by using 4th grade magic in the factory. He feels weak. Is he dealing with the aftershocks of it? After consuming some magical pills, our protagonist feels stronger than before. He is happy that he has cleared all the evidence. Suddenly he remembers Aiden. What if Aiden knows something about the professor's reality? He worries that if Aiden informs anyone about him, he will have to kill Aiden. Rudiger starts making his plan to execute Aiden. Aiden is a good student, and killing him would make the professor suspicious in the eyes of the Chancellor. Rudiger decides to rest because he needs to recover for future challenges. The National Security Bureau team is standing in front of the burned factory. Grandmaster Tarina is still trying to understand the connection between the abandoned factory and the death of Mr. Rixon. Both incidents happened at the same time. They are also suspecting the possibility of some magical experiments, possibly involving werewolves. Lloyd Sunbay brings the information about 3 injured students from Thorin Academy. They are also trying to figure out why the werewolves were burned by the professor. Through this investigation, they're getting closer to the professor. Every time something happens in the city regarding werewolves, Rudiger's name appears. In the classroom, students are talking about their new lecture for the day. At the same time, our protagonist enters the classroom. All the students look at him. The professor announces that he's going to deliver a lecture on the traits of cryptid subjugation of manifestation, and explains that this is the basis of elemental attribution. It's also going to raise their elemental powers. The professor asks Anthony, a student, to stand up and try this magic. It contains earth, air, and water, but the student fails to activate it. Then our protagonist shows the class a practical demonstration. Rudiger explains to his students why it's called the foundation of all raw magics. Flora puts her hand up and explains that it's also effective in burning people. Our young professor starts explaining that it depends on the human purpose and where we use it. For example, fire is a sign of survival if it's freezing cold. Water can run water mills, and so on. Our protagonist starts assisting his students in practicing elemental attributes. The professor notices Aiden, who isn't practicing anything. Rudiger wonders if he's still thinking about the werewolves. Aiden explains that he's trying his best to concentrate on his work, but somehow it's not working for him. Rudiger feels angry at him. How can a good student be unable to understand the basics of manifestation? Clearly, Aiden needs special attention to learn and practice magic. The professor understands his weak points. Rudiger explains to his students that first, they must think about it in their heads, and then it will appear in front of them. That's the power of manifestation. The professor hopes his students will remember what he's teaching them. It's human nature to feel that fire is hot, ice is cold, and wind is cold. Rudiger is demanding special efforts from his students, encouraging them to feel the elements with their 5 senses. After all the effort from our professor, his students start producing results. But one of the female students is not impressed by her teacher. It looks like she already knows these topics. She demonstrates some advanced magic practices in front of the class. Yes, it's Flora, the same arrogant girl, but it starts getting out of her hands, and by starting it, she puts everyone in danger. The professor steps in and helps Flora control it. To her surprise, her teacher deals with her kindly and helps her gain control. Rudiger is explaining to Flora that she can control it, but she needs more practice. The professor gave her 10 demerits for putting all the students in danger. He continues about the difficulty of combining elements like fire and ice. Now Professor shows her how it's done. Everyone is amassed by looking at the level of excellence. Flora is feeling defeated. Rudiger appreciates the skills of Flora and very politely explains to her that it's not worth it to show off her talents to others to get attention. She must know her worth. Flora understands the concerns of her teacher. It increases his respect in Flora's eyes. After that, our protagonist concludes his lecture and tells Rain to follow him to his office. Now Rain and Rudiger are sitting in his office. He told Rain to sit and wait for him. Professor reaches the bookshelf and brings a book named as Understanding of Non-Elemental Magic and hands it over to Renee. The young men offer Renee a cup of tea and starts a conversation with her. He is explaining to her that how she can be a great mage in future, and her ability to use one element is unique. Professor suggests Renee to read this book, and he is giving her an assignment which she must complete. In the classroom, Aiden and his 2 friends, Leo and Tacy, are practicing magic tricks to control elements. Aiden is very good at his craft, and Tacy appreciates him. Suddenly, they look at a crowd of aristocratic students as they try to figure it out. A noble student, Javan Felio, comes near Aiden and starts insulting him. Aiden ignores him, but the noble student is very rude and shameless. After watching Javan's insulting behavior, his friends jump in to protect him. When Javan threatens Tacy, Aiden cannot control his anger and challenges him to a magical duel, which Javan accepts. A noble professor approaches them and starts insulting Aiden and his friends. At the same time, our protagonist enters the room and tries to find out what is happening. After discovering the situation, he tries to control it by calling off the duel, but at the insistence of the noble professor, they accept the challenge. Now the bet is on their duel. Rudiger decides to teach Aiden how to prepare for the duel. Rudiger starts teaching Aiden the required skills for a magical fight. He tells him to be careful and always pay attention. They begin their training immediately. Our protagonist thinks he must spy on the noble student to assess his skill level. They only have 4 days to prepare for the match. After the hard training, Aiden rests in his room and thinks about the duel. He doesn't want to lose, not for himself, but for his professor, who trusts him and takes his side. The noble professor is in his office with Javan, the noble student. They are also training for the match. The noble professor explains to Javan that his victory is confirmed, but he still needs to improve his magic because Aiden is under the wings of Rudiger, and they cannot take him lightly. They also express concern about how Rudiger is teaching unique magic practices to commoner students. The noble professor gives Javan a powerful magical drink to ensure his victory. On the day of the duel, everyone is surprised to see the Chancellor in the room. The noble professor, whose name is Chris Benamor, stands next to Javan, and Rudiger stands next to Aiden. The Chancellor expresses her concerns regarding the safety and security of the students. After some time, both players appear in front of the crowd, each protected by magical suits. Commoners start chanting for Aiden, and nobles chant for Javan. Finally, the match begins. Both players start attacking each other at full speed. Aiden surprises Javan with his power. Javan doesn't back down. He also attacks with all his might. In the middle of the match, Javan shows his superior skills and is almost close to victory. But Aiden decides to use his secret weapon, and Javan realizes it's a maneuver. Professor Chris Benamor cannot believe his eyes. How can a commoner learn this skill in just 3 days? It's next to impossible. Javan tries his best to break Aiden's focus, but he fails. Aiden throws Javan to the ground and stands in front of him. The referee announces, "The winner is Aiden." Young Aiden looks more surprised than everyone else. His friends start calling his name loudly. All the aristocrats are quiet and angry at Javan, who just lost to a common student. Javan feels he can't believe he lost. He starts behaving like a psychopath and attacks Aiden from behind with magic. Aiden manages to save himself, counters, and cuts the magic. Everyone is stunned by it. Professor Chris shouts, "Anti-magic," referring to a special type of magic that erases other magic. Aiden demands that Javan honorably admit his defeat now. Another student, Proyden Wolberg, who is sitting near them, carefully looks at Aiden. Professor Chris comes near Rudiger and shows his concerns about the anti-magic, wondering how a student could understand it. Our protagonist explains that it's not illegal for a student to learn and practice anti-magic. Professor Chris wants to know about the bet. Rudiger refuses to take anything from him and leaves the room. Rudiger reaches his office, where Sunita is already waiting for him. Our protagonist needs to know about the mission. She explains that the Chancellor is suspicious of her. Rudiger admits that he can't meet her in his office since she's an average student, but if she improves her studies and becomes an extraordinary student, they can meet in his office easily. She accepts it as a command from Zero Order and becomes very happy. Rudiger is sitting alone in his office thinking about the Chancellor and about forming a new organization. Suddenly, the device in his pocket, which looks like a small globe, starts ringing. The professor receives the call. It's Hans on the other side. He wants to inform Rudiger about some groups that are gathering in an alleyway. Our protagonist is surprised by Hans's quick information. Hans informs him that a group called the Red Society is very active in that area. Rudiger decides to end this group as soon as possible. At the same time, Duturi, the leader of the Red Society, is sitting in his restaurant, showing his anger because of the loss of his investment. He had invested a large amount in Belbor's project, and after his death, all of his investment is gone. Now, he is planning to invest his remaining money in a business that can provide him with a cash flow. As he discusses this matter with his female secretary, suddenly a stranger enters his restaurant. He rudely tells the stranger to get lost because they are closed. But the stranger keeps walking toward him, and when the stranger gets close, Duturi recognizes him as Professor James Moriarty. James Moriarty is a crime consultant who controls the back alley of the Kingdom of Delica. Now Duturi is suspicious about his identity because James appears in front of him after many years. Naturally, he thinks that it's not the original James. Duturi's gunmen pull their guns on James, and Duturi orders them to shoot the professor in the shoulder. But with the help of magic, our protagonist jams their guns. Suddenly, a werewolf appears in the restaurant and sits next to the young men. Before coming here, Rudiger met with Hans, and they made a complete plan about how Hans would enter the restaurant to put pressure on the Red Society. But to their surprise, the Red Society members are not impressed by the werewolf and start attacking them. Our protagonist casts his magic and makes all of them blind. Duturi shouts loudly to kill Professor Moriarty, but to his surprise, all his men are helpless in front of black magic. No one can see, not even Duturi. Our professor smiles and starts killing them one by one. Our protagonist feels that someone is breaking his magic. It must be an associate knight because only they can break it, and he is right. An associate knight attacks our professor with his sword. The knight is breaking all his magic spells. For a moment, our hero looks helpless, and the knight is also very powerful. Our mage decides to combine magic and poison to control this knight. With his present mind and fast hands, Rudiger combines black magic with poison, controls his shadow, and kills the knight with it. This is the highest level of skill and knowledge. After killing the knight, the professor turns his attention to Duturi, who is sitting on the floor and still unable to see. Within a few seconds, the professor ends Duturi's life. Hans returns to his human form, and now Hans and Rudiger are sitting together. The professor takes the bottle of Gorgonian, which is 38 years old. Both start drinking from it. Hans is interested in the name of the new organization. The professor informs him that the name he is thinking of is UN. Owen. Hans replies that it means unknown. The protagonist confirms it. Yes, it is called Unknown, and starts thinking maybe Hans did not like the name. To his surprise, Hans informs him that he loves the name. Hans reminds his friend that they also need to hire new members for their organization. They already have 10 members, and now they need more. The professor is sitting in the canteen with his fellow professors, and they are eating lunch. During lunch, the topic of assistants comes up, and they all start talking about how many assistants they have. Our protagonist is surprised to learn that a professor can have assistants in this academy. Suddenly, he notices that Professor Betanoris is walking with his 10 assistants. Now, this is a great way to make his organization here. According to the rules of the Magic Academy, every professor can have up to 10 assistants. As our protagonist is walking toward his office, he notices that someone is following him. When he looks back, it's Saida. He starts thinking that he needs an assistant, so why not her? She is loyal and smart. Rudiger offers her to become his assistant, which she happily accepts. He also gives her some work to do, and tells her to complete it in 2 days, which she completes in only 1 hour. Rudiger is thinking she is faster than he thought. Good, she is the first one. In the classroom, everybody is talking about the rumor that Professor Rudiger is looking for an assistant, and that the Universal Stone is hidden in the thorn. Everyone in the class wants to become Rudiger's assistant because if they get that job, they can earn extra credits from the professor. Our professor is looking for students who can match his intelligence. To everyone's surprise, Saida enters the classroom while holding the documents of Rudiger. One girl is very upset upon learning that Rudiger already picked his assistant. When our boy completes his lecture, a student, Julia Plumharts, stands up and inquires about his assistant. Actually, she is also surprised, just like the other students. The professor informs everyone that he has chosen Saida because she has the proper character, and if she is interested in becoming his assistant, she has to go through the interview first. He also tells his class about the midterm exams and that they must start their preparations for it. Princess Arendir is relaxing in her luxurious and beautiful room, surrounded by a number of servants. She is very tired and wants to sleep, so she orders her servants to leave the room. Suddenly, she receives a call from the Federal Security Grandmaster, Tarina. She needs information about the werewolves and the incidents happening in the academy. The princess informs her that she knows about it and the professor who killed them. She also tells her about her meeting with our professor. The princess thinks about the professor and her meeting with him, deeply impressed by the fact that he managed to kill the werewolves. Arendir talks about her sister with Tarina, and after some time, they both say their goodbyes. After ending her call with Princess Arendir, Tarina inquires about the factor. She needs information about it from her assistant, Enya. Enya informs her that she is investigating some papers, but the papers are half burned. In her view, someone is searching and making something. She also talks about the disappearance of the Red Society, which just vanished. Tarina is worried and tired. She wants to focus on Leatherbelk, and after that she plans to visit the Theorn. Our protagonist is writing something on the blackboard, thinking about the new rumors spreading around the academy. He thinks about the students who are searching for it on their own now. It's impossible to stop them from working on it. In the classroom, students are getting bored and want something fun. A student sitting at the last bench tries to start a magic fire on his own. He starts the magic fire, but it's getting out of his hands. Our hero controls it and explains to them that this technique is called the coordinate assignment formula. It's just a small modification to manifestation magic. Now all the students want to learn it, but Rudiger refuses to teach them right now. He explains that if they want to learn it, they must first learn the basics, step by step, and do it the proper way. After completing his lecture, Rudiger returns to his office, where Senida is waiting for him. He tells Senida to wait for him outside his office. As he enters, he receives a call from the Chancellor, who informs him that the Universal Stone has been stolen from the Academy. She is worried and crying. Our protagonist underestimates their enemies. They are fast and skillful. Now he regrets ignoring the rumors. He comforts the Chancellor and promises to find the robbers. He doesn't want to waste any more time, so he calls his assistant in to get information from her about the present situation among the students. He wants explanations from her. Many things are going through Rudiger's mind. It could be Zero Order, or maybe Third Order, and then Third Order informs the Second Order about the Universal Stone. The Second Order keeps this information to itself and acts on it. In Second Order, Demolus is in charge, but according to his assistant's point of view, Demolus isn't smart enough to act on his own. Demolus is connected to the government, and they must keep that in mind. Whoever stole the stone must be planning something big with it. Our enemies are after Demolus, and he needs protection from them. Demolus is trying his best to find the robbers who stole the stone, with the help of his dozen allies. Now, Cyanida is waiting for her next order because she wants to be a good assistant. Our protagonist tells her to wait for his next command. Right now, Rudiger wants to go after them on his own. Flora and her friend walk down the street, talking about the most powerful magic, a magic that consumes the caster's entire presence. Flora tells her friend that to achieve that level of magic, one needs to sacrifice a lot. Suddenly, Flora feels someone passing by her. She can feel it and smell it but can't see it. Her friend is totally unable to feel anything. Flora explains that someone just passed by her and that the person is using vanishing magic. Only a powerful mage can do it. Actually, it's their professor who is going after the robbers. Right now, Rudiger stands in front of the forest. An officer standing next to him looks scared because the forest is very dangerous. It kills anyone who dares to enter. Authorities have tried many times to cut down the forest, but it always finds a way to grow back. Many people go insane after returning from that forest. Rudiger starts walking inside without showing any weakness, but one of Demoles's assistants starts feeling pain in his head. All four of Demoles's assistants begin to panic and ask for help from him. They strongly feel that they are surrounded by some strange powers. Demoles calms them down and explains his plan to them. Demolus pulls out the Universal Stone from his pocket and tries to find help from it, but it's not working. Suddenly, our protagonist appears and demands an explanation. Demolus presents the Universal Stone to him. Our hero takes the stone from his hand and kills them all with his magic. As he's thinking about it, the Chancellor appears and takes the stone from Rudiger's hand. She shouts loudly that it's the end. At that moment, our protagonist realizes that it's a trap and escapes without showing his face to the Chancellor. The Chancellor stands there with the fake Universal Stone in her hands, thinking her conspiracy has worked, but she can't recognize Rudiger at all. She's trying to figure out who is behind it as she can only see the dead bodies of Demolus and a few of his assistants. The way the Chancellor teleports herself there is outstanding, and Rudiger can't believe what he's witnessing. He understands it's 6th rank magic and realizes it's the power of Elisa Willows. He wonders why she put the fake stone there and asked for his help to find it. Then she personally arrives, meaning there's a chance she's discovered her real identity. It's a trap. Suddenly, Flora appears in front of the professor and surprises him. He warns Flora about the dangers of the forest and demands she leave as soon as possible. Flora explains to him that she senses a good smell in the forest and that's why she's here. At the same time, her friend appears, showing her fear. The professor is angry at them and leads them out of the silent forest. As they leave, the Chancellor stands at the gate of the client forest, wondering what Rudiger is doing with these two girls there at such a late hour. Our protagonist explains to her that these students are lost in the forest and he's helping them out. Flora explains to the Chancellor that she came here on her own, and that her friend Shirley is following her because she's worried about her safety. Now, the professor is taking the students to the academy. At the academy, the Chancellor discusses the current situation with an older gentleman, the same man who welcomed our protagonist at the train station. He wants to know about Rudiger. The Chancellor explains that Rudiger is not a bad person, and she didn't find anything suspicious in his reactions. After that, both leave. Our protagonist is very smart. He attaches a link to the fake universal stone, and now he reaches the real one. He puts his hands on it, trying his best to find the location of the missing pieces of his own relic. But the universal stone isn't working at all. It's very powerful, and in order to control it, he must use all of his powers. The stone is sucking all his internal energy. Our protagonist is sitting in his room talking to his friend Hans. Upon Hans's inquiry, he informs him that he has found the locations of 2 missing pieces of his relic. One of them is in Leatherbelk, and the other is some distance away. Rudiger's other identity is Hyungnam, and Hans calls him by that name. Hans informs the professor that there is an auction house in Leatherbelk, and possibly one missing piece of his relic is present there. Also, there is going to be an auction at this auction house, and it's possible that they are planning to sell it. As our hero is leaving his office, right in front of his door, he sees Flora. She is standing there, trying to listen to his conversation. Rudiger is surprised to see her here. Flora is unable to explain the purpose of her presence. She wants to know many things but isn't able to inquire about them. She explains that she has been able to practice the coordinate assignment formula on her own and claims that she is the only student in the academy who can do it. Rudiger thinks about rewarding her, but merits alone aren't enough for her hard work because coordinate assignment is a mathematical formula, and practicing it successfully requires great effort. So he takes Flora to his research library, and upon seeing it, she is surprised. Rudiger explains that he is working on the principle of controlling mana and the formula he is currently researching. The professor shows her the practice of that energy, creating a powerful surge in the library, which Flora cannot handle. She starts losing consciousness. Flora is now sitting inside the professor's office, slowly regaining consciousness. Our protagonist explains to her that it's called a Klein bottle and is only for experimental purposes. Rudiger now understands that Flora has sensitive ears and nose. Ordinary people cannot sense things as she can. Flora is surprised that the professor has figured out her specialty, and yet remains so calm and composed. Rudiger advises her to keep her powers a secret from the other students. Outside the academy, Hans is waiting for the professor. When Rudiger arrives, Hans is surprised to see him in stylish attire. Hans and Rudiger sit inside Hans's car and start traveling. After reaching a beautiful hotel, both step out of the car. Hans informs him that their appointment is on the 4th floor. At the grand entrance, Hans shows 2 tickets to the guards, and they allow them inside. Rudiger is not happy with the noise and flashiness of the place, but Hans is pleased because it's better than the academy, and they have a chance to meet a lot of beautiful women here. Rudiger knows that this is a meeting place for the underworld and various organizations. There are some unwritten rules of the underworld, and very few people know about them. Our protagonist wonders why they have been invited to the 4th floor, and why all the security guards are absent there. He is still unsure about it. Inside the room, at a large dining table, a few people are already sitting. A middle-aged beautiful woman, Violetta, welcomes the protagonist and calls him James Moriarty. She is curious about the professor's actions that ended the Red Society. She thinks Rudiger wants to start his own Red Society. A middle-aged man with a beard interrupts their conversation and tells him how surprised he is to see him. Actually, they weren't expecting Rudiger to accept their invitation for dinner. Violetta expresses that the last time Rudiger met them, he failed to start a war in the Dalika kingdom, and maybe this time he wants to start a war in this kingdom. The young protagonist refuses all the concerns. In the room, 2 more characters are present from the old kid's family. One is an old man with a gray beard, his name is Dion, and a beautiful young blonde girl named Mastella. Rudiger smiles at the young girl and welcomes her to such a professional dinner. Mastella is very happy with his kindness. Now the professor starts explaining the purpose of his visit. He proposes a business proposition and explains how it's going to make a lot of money for them. The only condition is that they have to work under him. Hans is angry after hearing all of this. Rudiger explains that even if they want to decline his offer, he is willing to distribute the land he captures from the Red Society. Everyone is surprised, thinking that even if they decline, he is going to give them some land from the Red Society. No way, it's not possible. Pinion, who is an experienced businessman, wants to know the details about the nature of the business Rudiger is proposing. Violetta wants to stop him by taking quick action regarding Rudiger's offer. Our professor explains that he wants them to play story dramas with songs. Everyone agrees with him. As the protagonist is walking out of the Grand Hotel on the street with his friend Hans, they discuss Rudiger's business plans. He wants this dark and sad city to be converted into a beautiful and happy place. Hans expresses his concerns about Pinion. From behind, a lady calls Rudiger's name. To his surprise, it's Violetta. She is hiding her face with a mask, but the professor recognizes her. She wants to know the reality of his plan and his motives behind it. He explains that through this business, he wants to change the women's clothing industry in this kingdom, which is controlled by noble women. He wants to introduce light dresses that can be used in daily life. He knows that Violetta's organization agrees with him, but for the other two organizations, he will find out later. Violetta removes her mask and shows a scar on her face. Our hero removes her scar with his magic, and she smiles at him. It looks like they know each other from a long time ago. As they talk, suddenly the professor pushes Violetta to the side. She wonders why he's doing that. Then, she notices an arrow that just misses her and hits the wall. The remaining members of the Red Society are here, looking for revenge against Rudiger. Now, the protagonist and his lady friend decide to finish them all. The remaining member of the Red Society attacks them. They're too many, but still, they're no match for our protagonist. Our hero and Violetta start taking them down one by one with ease. Rudiger is still looking for the person who shot the arrow at them, but he's not here. Who could it be? They're not among these Red Society members. They must be hiding nearby, so both of them have to be very careful. Suddenly, the professor picks up his lady friend and starts running toward the road. She's surprised by the professor's action, but she still trusts him. The protagonist explains the situation to her, saying there are some highly trained assassins among these idiots. And he's right. Right behind the Red Society members, two masked assassins charge at them. Rudiger recognizes them as Calcipa assassins, professional killers. While carrying his lady friend, our hero jumps onto the roof of a building. The assassins attack with magical poisons. For now, the professor and his lady friend try to defend themselves, but the poison is more powerful. So the professor thinks of another plan. He uses Violetta as bait and disappears from the scene. As the assassins attack the lady, Rudiger comes from behind and kills them both, one by one. Our hero explains the magic as diffusion sense and their characteristics. These assassins are from beyond the southern desert. The remaining members of the Red Society find them and attack. The professor gives Violetta the chance to take care of them, and as expected, she does it with just one magic spell. All the attackers suddenly fall dead to the ground. Our hero is impressed by her skills. Now he's thinking about the remaining members of the society. Without their leadership, they won't be able to carry out such actions against them. Violetta wants to know why these members attacked them. Rudiger explains it's because he's behind the killing of Belbot Rixon. His lady friend is surprised that he's involved in it. Now, there's a challenge to find Dutri and the remaining members of the Red Society. Rudiger gives this task to her, and they both part ways. Our protagonist returns to his friend Hans. He finds Hans being attacked by his colleague. Her name is Sheridan Lonfid, and she is a dwarf girl. Rudiger calls her his assistant, and she refuses to be his assistant in a naughty way. Hans is asking for help to save him from that little dwarf. With a smile, she leaves him alone. Actually, she is just playing with Hans. Rudiger gives her a part of his shield to repair, which she starts working on. Now, Hans remembers that Rudiger is the same girl our professor saved from the Delica Kingdom. After our hero returns to his room, he starts looking outside from his window. Suddenly, he sees some strange people moving on the street. He is surprised because these people are moving very slowly and without any noise. One of them is a lady with silver hair. Now he recognizes them. These are not knights. They are Nightcrawler Night Order's Lord Protectors. And the lady with silver hair is Tarina Lionhowl. He wants to know the purpose behind their visit to Leatherbelk. It can be about the murder of Belbot Rixon. Now he starts understanding their complete story. In the meanwhile, that dwarf girl enters his room and informs him how she fixed his armor and added features into it. On the streets, where the dead bodies of all the Red Society members are still lying on the ground, Tarina and her assistants are investigating the murder site. They also find the two assassins. They are surprised to find out that these assassins belong to the Fatima dynasty. These people are hired to kill for money. Tarina is thinking that Red Society members and these assassins are killed by the same person, and they are linked to the Belbot Rixon murder. After completing her investigations, Tarina understands the involvement of Rudiger, as he is the one who burns the werewolves alive. Now she is heading towards the academy. As our protagonist is resting in his room, one of his female colleagues comes to see him. She inquires about his absence. He has no classes today, that's why he decided to rest today. She informs him that someone from the National Security Bureau is waiting for him in his office. After reaching his office, he feels relaxed upon seeing a junior officer. That officer introduces himself as Lloyd, and he is here to take details about Rudiger's encounter with the werewolf and how he managed to burn it. Our protagonist explains that incident in great detail. The officer looks satisfied with the details he just received from the professor and leaves his office, thanking him for his great work. Captain Lloyd returns to his team, where Tarina is waiting for his return. Now, she wants to know all the details about his meeting with Rudiger. Lloyd explains to her that there are no leads. The professor gives him complete details, and there is no reason to doubt him. Tarina is holding the warrants for investigation in her hands, but now they seem useless to her. Lloyd explains to her that he follows all her orders and makes no mistakes. It looks like she was expecting that already. She is curious whether the professor is highly trained or just an ordinary teacher. Captain Lloyd is explaining his encounter with our protagonist. His hands are just like an ordinary mage's, someone who never holds a knife. He also notices that the professor shakes his hand with a glove. Now Tarina is upset and wants to move on from here. In the meantime, the Chancellor comes after her and greets her. Actually, Chancellor Elisa is a friend of Tarina, and she is the one who is not allowing her to interview Rudiger. The Grandmaster Tarina is quite upset about it. Now Elisa offers her tea, but she refuses, as she only wants to investigate the case with the professor. Elisa explains that Professor Rudiger is a newbie in her academy, and doesn't want her to break him. She also shows her fondness for our young man. Our protagonist is thinking about the captain and his way of observing his room as he checks the dust on his table. He clearly looks like a germaphobe. Even if it's true, then what is the purpose of shaking hands with him using naked hands? Inside his office, Rudiger removes his artificial skin gloves. It looks like our protagonist is very well prepared. The young man informs his assistant that it is clear to him that 3 of his students are involved in these incidents. Yes, the same students, Aiden, Leo, and Tacy. His assistant continues that the lower class has a commission board, which is paid by them. These 3 students are already aware of the Third Order. Our professor decides to keep an eye on these 3 students himself. Now, in the classroom, Rudiger is giving a lecture and telling his students about the new test. Today's lecture is about source code. As all the students know, there is a penalty for cheating in exams. Now it's a test for his assistant, because she must be in the top 5% of the students in order to continue as his assistant. She is already feeling the pressure. After the examination, most of the students are worried because this exam is out of the books, and most of the students are not prepared for it. As the professor leaves the classroom, Renee, who is also Rudiger's assistant, runs after him. Upon his inquiry, she replies that she wants to return the book. The young man refuses to take it back because it's a gift for her. The Chancellor and the old gentleman are discussing today's exam. The Chancellor explains that only those students who already have a strong foundation and knowledge of the basics can pass it. The older gentleman tries to compare our protagonist with Professor Chris Benamor, as both these professors are experts in manifestation. The Chancellor agrees with this comparison because Rudiger is a perfectionist. The Chancellor is deeply impressed by today's exam paper. She shows the exam papers to Professor Chris and demands that he follow Rudiger's footsteps in the next exams. Professor Chris is already very jealous of our protagonist, and he starts planning to take revenge on him. Professor Chris is a noble, and his comparison with a fallen noble makes him unsettled. Renee completes her preparation for the next exams, and feeling hungry, decides to take a lunch break. As she's walking out of the canteen, some noble students stop her and start teasing her. One boy in particular is very rude towards her. He starts showing his aggression when she refuses him. He throws a punch and knocks her down to the ground. Suddenly, a handsome young student appears. His name is Proyden Wolberg. Now Renee is even more scared because Proyden is a ruthless and selfish noble. When he finds out about the situation, Proyden gets angry at the noble student who punched Renee. To Renee's surprise, Proyden knocks out the rude noble boy to teach him a lesson. Proyden explains to the rude nobles that it is they who give a bad name to all the nobles. He then tells the noble boy and his friends to leave and leave her alone. Renee is very impressed by this handsome boy. Now Proyden invites her to join him for lunch. He takes Renee to his secret place in the park, where only he comes during his lunch breaks. He tells Renee to keep his secret place to herself and offers her his own food. Renee thinks about all the rumors about him, and now she finds out that he is actually a good person. In the garden, a female professor is giving a lecture on spiritualism. As she sees Professor Rudiger passing by, she invites him to watch her lecture, and our protagonist agrees. First, she shows the students how to invite spirits herself, and now wants her students to repeat it. She also wants the young professor to try it, but he refuses because, in his point of view, spirits are not fond of him. While she is explaining to him about the spirits, she suddenly hears some voices from his past life. She used to tell Rudiger, he have all the qualities of a shaman. Spirits are protecting him. Rudiger is confused and unable to understand it. Professor Selena explains to him that spirits are very kind and gentle. When Rudiger does not show any interest, she goes back to her students to conduct the exam. Now, our protagonist is thinking about the spirits. He feels relaxed because medium power spirits are not present here. Otherwise, Professor Selena would get suspicious of him. Rudiger senses the presence of 2 very powerful spirits from behind the trees. He is surprised that Professor Selena cannot feel them, as she is an expert on this topic. The professor is curious about their presence in the woods and wonders why they are still watching him. Maybe there is another order in the thorn. It's possible. Maybe they've found out that Rudiger is a fake professor. Our protagonist decides to follow the spirits in the woods. As he walks towards them, to his surprise, he sees some letters written on the ground. It's a message for him, saying to meet them at a certain place after his class. It's getting more and more interesting. Deep in the forest, the professor walks alone in search of the spirits. Suddenly, he sees a red burning fire. To his surprise, our protagonist receives another message from them, but this time it's in a voice. The spirits want him to create chaos in the Thorn. They explain their role of destruction to Rudiger. The spirits' enemies are the magicians who put out the fires created by them. The professor thinks the spirits are planning terror at the academy, so he warns them not to play with fire. The spirit is worried about the disappearance of its subordinates and the second order. Now, the spirits want his services, for which it's willing to pay him. The spirit knows the real name of Rudiger and warns him if he declines the offer. The spirit offers him a contract between John Doe and Esmeralda. Our protagonist is too smart for the spirit and quickly understands these names are fake, just like his. So, he decides to move away from here. As he starts walking away, the spirit threatens him with dire consequences, which he doesn't care about, since this spirit came to him for help. The professor thinks he can't get involved in any dangerous activity, as the chancellor is already suspecting him. Now, the spirit changes its tone, as our hero isn't showing any fear. The spirit is almost begging for his attention, but he isn't even looking at it. The spirit explains itself as if it's just a joke and asks him not to take it too seriously. The professor makes it very clear to the spirit that it should never doubt his loyalty to the Zero Order again. Now the tables are turned, and our protagonist starts threatening the spirit, warning it that if it goes against him, it will pay for it. The spirit apologizes and leaves. Rudiger has already studied John Doe in detail. Now he's thinking about the fire and the voice behind it. The voice belongs to a young woman, and whoever is controlling this fire must be an expert elementalist. So from now on, he narrows his research to the professors of elementalists, including their students. Our protagonist puts all his attention on the upcoming event at the Leatherbelk, where a professor will be welcomed. All the professors are going to be present there. Now it's his chance. At night, a mysterious woman walks down the corridor of the academy. She's the one speaking behind the red flame. She regrets that all her efforts went to waste, as Rudiger is stranger than her expectations and shows no fear at all. Renee walks back from the garden after having lunch with Proyden. She's thinking about him. He gives her a good impression, and she's feeling good vibes from him. To her surprise, a young man introduces himself as Enri Presto, a friend of Proyden. She still doesn't understand the purpose of his visit. Very soon he offers her a job, but something feels off about him and his friend Proyden. At night, the welcoming party starts in the hall and all the professors are present, including the new professor. Our protagonist becomes the center of attention at this party. The professors are introducing themselves to each other. Professor Chris and Marilotta are off to the side, and Congressman Charles is also present. But our professor is searching for Esmeralda. From a corner, he hears a familiar voice. It's Professor Selena, but before he can reach her, someone else is already there. Rudiger quickly interrupts their conversation by informing Evan Luke that she has plans with him. Evan Luke, who is the director of Luke Company, takes it as an insult and gets angry, raising his hand to strike Rudiger. But Rudiger is way too strong for him, and grabs his hand with such force that Evan is surprised. Evan's assistant intercepts and separates them. In this tense situation, the Chancellor steps in to calm things down. Elisa refuses the demand to fire Rudiger from the academy by calling Evan only the director of his father's company and telling him that all the authorities of his company are in the hands of his father. The owner of Luke Company appears and apologizes to the Chancellor for his son's misbehavior. The Chancellor, Elisa, suggests a duel between Rudiger and Evan. Our hero is surprised by this action, as is Evan's father. Our hero has no other option but to accept. Evan wants his assistant Aid to fight for him since he doesn't know magic, and Aid is a skilled mage. But to everyone's surprise, it ends before it even starts. Aid is lying on the ground, and Rudiger is smiling. Elisa informs Chairman Theodore that Rudiger is a unique person and an extremely powerful mage. Now Theodore has no choice but to apologize on his son's behalf and leave. As Rudiger is leaving the party, Selena reaches him and invites him to dinner. She tells him she and her friends, who are professors of animism, are waiting in a hotel. Our protagonist joins them, thinking he might find something special there. At dinner, Rudiger observes all 4 of her female friends, but no one seems to have any special powers. When a waitress comes near to present drinks to the table, the professor recognizes her as his assistant, Renee. Upon his inquiry, she informs him that Sunbae gave her the job, and there are a few more of his students working here as well. Rudiger takes the drinks and tells her not to overwork and to leave on time and rest a little. Professor Selena introduces one of her students, Joanna Lovett, to Rudiger. But to their surprise, Joanna walks away from them and stands near another table. As our professor takes a sip of wine, his head starts spinning and he drops the wine glass. Selena wants to know if he is okay. Our professor goes out on the hotel's terrace to get some fresh air. Now he regrets using a lot of power in that duel or something else. Our protagonist hears someone calling for help from inside the hotel. When he turns back, he sees a huge monster throwing fire from its mouth. Panic spreads inside as everyone runs for their lives. Maybe it's the spirit. Professor Angela and Professor Viorano, along with other mages, attack the monster, but to no avail. They are unable to control it. From the window, our protagonist observes the situation. It's the highest level of fire. It could be in humanoid form. Now he starts calculating the flames, but the identity of the summoner is hidden. Perhaps it appears from the silver tray placed in the middle of the table. He figures it out. Actually, Joanna Lovett is Esmeralda. The professor finds Renee stuck under a table and quickly runs to save her. After saving Renee and healing her wounds, Rudiger tells her to leave and jumps at the monster. Professor Angela attacks the monster with Ventus Walpi and breaks its arm, but it quickly grows back. All the mages present in the hall attack the monster, but soon they realize that their powers are not enough to defeat it. Suddenly, everyone sees our protagonist throwing himself at the monster and finishing it off in a matter of seconds. Before dying, the monster challenges them all, saying it will come back again and burn them all. Rudiger smiles at it. Now that the monster is gone, the professor inspects it and finds out that the monster is connected to medium magic. A lady professor of animism admits her failure to figure out the real cause of it, but she appreciates Rudiger's skill level. Professor Sunluna keeps explaining the details of the monster and its source, but she is still unable to understand why its spirit hates humans so much. She explains to Rudiger that because spirits represent nature, they don't have thoughts of their own. Because Professor Rudiger minimized the damage, everyone is thankful to him. Rudiger finds out about Sunluna's curiosity regarding his final magic, where he falls from the sky at the monster. He explains to her that it's grounding magic power at a specific coordinate and that he uses it to manifest. He also explains that it's not easy to use even after learning it, unless one is cognitively gifted with spatial perception. Meanwhile, he notices some weakness and signs of illness in Professor Sunluna and inquires if she is feeling any strange symptoms. She admits that she has been gifted since childhood and is known as a genius among her friends and family. Now, Professor Sunluna wants to know if Rudiger is hearing any strange noises, to which he replies, no, he doesn't. She adds that if he does hear anything, it has nothing to do with his situation at all, but she is still interested to know if there is more to it. Now our protagonist starts taking an interest in the conversation and inquires about the voices, and if there's anything more to it. Professor Sunluna replies that normal people are unable to hear the voices. It takes someone special to hear them, and they would start seeing things as well. In the morning, Rudiger is reading the newspaper, and it's filled with news about the attack at the banquet and the possible culprit behind it. It's big news because all the victims are high-profile people. Now, he is happy that he has figured out the main culprit. It's Esmeralda. First, he thinks about leaking her information to the Theorn, but after deep thinking, he refuses. He decides to look into it further and wait for another chance. And what about Evan Luke? He is the owner of the auction house and also doubles its security. Now that's not good news for our hero. A beautiful woman welcomes our protagonist and takes him for a walk. She starts showing him the progress they've made. First, the newly renovated street, and she explains how they used 80% of their budget on it. She also talks about how other groups are cooperating with their propositions. Kirukas is working on their music. The old ones are preparing the magazine with a lot of stories from unknown writers, and she is using children to spread rumors. She also shows him the fashion garment shop she established on his orders. Our protagonist is impressed by her efforts. While they're talking in a very good mood, suddenly a good-looking young man appears and starts flirting with the woman. She is quite upset with his behavior. The new young man introduces himself as Alex, and he is a member of the UN. Owen Group, an organization founded by our protagonist. Alex is quite annoying and has a large mouth. He talks a lot. Rudiger explains to the lady that he is only here because of his skills. The professor, with his two friends, enters the building where Hans is already waiting for him. As Hans is welcoming them, suddenly another member of the UN Owen organization, Bella Luna Fatana, who is in charge of medicine and gunpowder, grabs Hans and starts playing. Hans calls her elf and shows how annoying she is. Two more members, Phantos and Arfa, also join them. Now, the introductions begin. Everyone introduces themselves to each other. At last, it's Violetta's turn to introduce herself. She has special powers. She is a little shy, and Rudiger tells her she is skilled enough to join their organization. So, the professor requests her to join his organization officially, which she accepts. Now, it's time for Rudiger to reveal his plan in front of his team. His plan is to raid the Kunst auction house. All the team members are surprised and wonder why he wants to raid there, as Alice explains that the security level there is very high. Rudiger shows them the blueprint of the auction house and presents his detailed plan. In the morning, our protagonist is walking in the park when he notices Professor Selena and Joanna Lovett having a conversation with a stranger. As he wonders about the identity of his men, Professor Selena notices him and calls his name. Selena informs the professor that the stranger is just worried about the incident at the banquet and that nothing is important. She also thanks him for saving them all at the dinner, saying that all the students are fine because of him. Now, our protagonist notices that the girl standing next to Selena is actually Esmeralda, but it's best not to show that he already knows who she is in real life. Rudiger admires Selena's efforts in helping people at the dinner party. The professor excuses them, as he is getting late for his class. Now, our protagonist is talking with his assistant, and he is not happy with her efforts. She assures him that she will investigate the incident if he gives her a chance, but the professor wants his assistant to investigate Joanna Lovett. At the auction house, Ivan Luke is waiting for some of his special guests. His assistant suggests he wait inside, as it's not safe for him, but he refuses. Finally, the guests arrive. These are the members of the UN organization, Arfa and Phantos. Arfa introduces himself as Lord Arguaramusla, and Ivan welcomes them. Ivan invites them inside the auction house. Asks for a favor to store one of his family's objects. As Ivan is trying to impress his guests, he quickly agrees to store the object in his basement. Rudiger sends his team members with a complete plan and training. Now, 2 of his team members are entering the basement of the auction house. Their plan is working. It's Arfa's duty to gain the trust of Ivan Luke. The auction house is guarded by armored knights. Alex is standing at the door of the restaurant as Rudiger plans. He's keeping an eye on everyone. Suddenly, he notices Enya Joiners. She is Alex's ex-girlfriend. Alex quickly informs the professor about her presence. Rudiger orders Alex to leave the place when he gets the chance. After returning from the auction, Alex starts explaining the details of his visit on a blackboard. Alex explains to his team that the basement storage area is divided into 3 rooms, and as the auction duration is 3 days, they will auction items from each room every day. Hans concludes that the relics Rudiger is after are placed in the 3rd room. Rudiger makes the final decision for their action. He decides to take action on the 2nd day, because on the 3rd day, security is going to increase. He gives different duties to all team members. Now their only worry is the rumor that an undercover knight from the Secret Services is going to be among the guards. Alex clears the air by telling them that he is just a low-level knight, and there is nothing to worry about. In the city, the detective's assistant Betty is carrying a large bag of documents. It's windy, so she struggles to hold them. Her boss approaches her and informs her about the coming rain. She tells him to be fast and take care of the documents. Now Casey Selmoy, a private detective, is in a hurry because it starts raining. She orders her assistant to hurry up. Betty still wonders why her boss came to Leatherbelk in the first place. Casey explains the strange incidents and organizations active in the city, as well as the appearance of cryptids, things that are out of the ordinary. She is after James Moriarty, who was last seen here. Betty remembers Moriarty's death, but Casey thinks it's just a rumor. Casey's gut feeling is that James is still alive, but Betty wants her to use her inductive reasoning skills. Casey can prove her words with evidence from the newspapers and the data she carries in her bag. About 5 years ago, in the Durenmon Kingdom, cryptids raided the civilians. She also talks about the beast of Javaudan. A man named Abraham Van Helsing hunted the monster, but no one knows about the man. She counts many other incidents where an unknown man appears, helps the people, and then disappears. Betty rejects the idea that all the heroes in these wars are the same person, but Casey is determined that it's him, the same person she's looking for. Anyway, Casey tells Betty that she has arranged a good place for them to stay and suggests they go there and rest. The place she chooses is the Kunst auction house. Inside the auction house, Evan Luke is welcoming Princess Arendir von Exilian. The princess is tired and wants to rest in her room. Evan begins to lead her toward her VVIP room. At the same time, our protagonist is present in the auction house with his team members. Their plan is underway. Alex is ready for action, but to his surprise, his ex-girlfriend is there. Now they are all after the keys to the elevator entrance. For that, Alex and Violetta are working together. Violetta attracts a guard and asks for his assistance to reach her room, acting as though she is very drunk. She knows the guards have the keys. Her beauty works on the guard, and he offers to take her to her room as long as she gets sober. The guard tries to take advantage of her drunkenness, but it's a trap. Violetta knocks him out with a single punch. She is surprised by her strength, but Rudiger's training helps her a lot. Now that she is inside the guard's room, it's easy for her to find the keys. On stage in the auction house, bidding has already started. They are showing an object to the buyers, said to be taken from the mermaids. The auction starts at 1 million dinars and quickly reaches 200 million. Princess Arendir is surprised to see Casey sitting next to her. Even in their first meeting, Casey impresses Princess Arendir with her observation skills. Casey is curious as to the reason behind her boredom, even in such a beautiful place. Casey even notices that the princess isn't wearing any perfume right now, which is unusual for someone of her noble status. But the princess cares less about what others think of her. They sit at the VIP seats, and finally, after saying all these things, Casey introduces herself to the princess as a private detective. The princess recalls all the rumors about her, the water wizard, and how she is also known as Celadon Green Water. Right now, our protagonist is leading the operation and is pleased with Violetta's performance. But to his surprise, Evan meets him there. Evan welcomes him with open arms and offers any assistance before leaving. Rudiger understands the reason behind this. Evan wants to keep an eye on him in his auction house. Our protagonist knows that Evan is intentionally keeping a close watch on him. Rudiger calls for his backup. Now Hans is ready to play his role, waiting outside the auction house. Hans plans his entrance with his team members. In the meantime, a guard from the auction house notices them standing outside. The guard inquires about their presence in the back alleyway. Hans wants Arfa to do something before they get caught. Arfa, in a hurry, is unable to make a decision and punches the guard, knocking him out. Hans is surprised by the power of Arfa's punch, especially since the guard is a large man, and Arfa looks like a small boy. They tie up the guard and hide him in the garbage. Arfa is not only strong but can mimic others' voices. Quite a talented boy. Hans is impressed. Alex takes the elevator keys from his lady team member and heads toward the elevator with the Beastman, who is hiding his presence using spirit animation. On their way, they notice a large number of guards. As expected, the number has increased. All of Rudiger's team members call each other by their nicknames. They are all moving toward their main target, which is located in the basement of the auction house. Bellaluna releases tear gas in the main hall, causing a panic. Everyone is calling for help. The main purpose of this gas is to remove the guards from the elevator. Alex has to take care of the remaining 2 guards at the elevator. As he introduces himself to the guards as a friend of Evan, Phantos knocks them out. 3 team members enter the elevator. The stage auction is still going on. Our protagonist stands there, controlling his team. He notices Evan is still keeping an eye on him. To Rudiger's surprise, he notices Casey Selmoy, and she is staring at him. They have a shared history. Now, our protagonist's attention is diverted. Maybe she knows about his plan. It's impossible, but she can destroy it. Rudiger decides to continue with his plan. Guards at the CCTV control room notice some disturbance in the second room of the basement. However, as he is tired and hungry, he dismisses it, thinking it's his imagination and nothing else. But suddenly, they witness an intruder entering the second room through a hole in the wall. It's impossible because the basement is so deep underground. They quickly report it to Evan. Evan rushes towards the elevator where all the guards are present and orders them to check the sewer entrances around the area. Now he wants to clear room 2. His main target is the intruder, who is still present there. So he orders his assault team to do the job. The assault team reports back that there is no one in the room, meaning someone is showing them a fake screen. Suddenly they realize it's a trap. The actual robbery is happening in room number 3, but before the guards reach there, the elevator collapses with them. The doors are locked from the inside. Evan calls all his security but hesitates to call the police, not wanting to disturb the auction. Now Evan and all his security are trapped in a single room. Sheridan cuts the transmission with the help of a transmission hacking device. The mission is a success. Before it all begins, Rudiger's team members capture the guards and put their armor on. No one knows about it, and the assault team Evan is relying on are actually members of UN. Owens. While in the elevator, they knock out the remaining members of the actual assault team and disappear before the elevator collapses. Now the passage is blocked, and no one can come to the basement. It's a smart plan. They carefully take all the artifacts and leave the building. Hans is a little worried about his performance today. He thinks maybe his boss will replace him soon. Rudiger, who is listening to Hans, orders him to wait for him while all their team members escape safely. Now the guards inside the auction stage are called by Evan to the control room. It's a good chance for the professor to escape. Before he leaves the hall, suddenly a loud explosion rings out, and to everybody's surprise, a large group of robbers enters the hall. The leader of the intruders shouts loudly to kill them all, and after killing them, they will take all their valuables from their dead bodies. An intruder runs toward the people wearing a bomb vest. Our protagonist recognizes it from the Liberation Army. Now, it's clear to him that it's not just a robbery. The Liberation Army is also after this auction house. The professor neutralizes the attacker with his magic powers. Another party that wants something from this auction is Black Magicians. Now, Rudiger is worried about the safety of Hans. The princess wonders about the bomb blast. The leader of the Liberation Army orders his men to get the princess, but the princess is also a student of magic. She throws some magical bubbles at them, and all 3 robbers get trapped in them. Casey and her assistant Betty also take part in killing the robbers. Anne from the Nightcrawler is also helping the princess. These girls stand in the hall, wondering why all the guards of the auction house aren't present. Casey advises them to leave first, and then they will discuss it from a safe place. Hans is lying on the ground, extremely injured and badly bleeding. He thinks about his meeting with the professor, where he asks him why he chose him for his organization, even though he's a coward and a weak person. The protagonist explains that Hans has his own powers, and at the right time, he will be very useful. Hans discovers his powers when he's a child in an orphanage, where all the students are strangers to him except for a girl. She's like a little sister to him. One day she brings a little puppy to the orphanage. While playing with it, the puppy bites Hans's hand, and that day, his life changes forever. He commits his first murder there. Rudiger gives him a secret knife and tells him to use it only when he's truly in danger. The leader of the robbers takes a pouch containing a relic's mana from Hans's hands and leaves him to die on the floor. Now near death, Hans takes out the knife and stabs his own hand. With its powers, he starts changing into a monster. Meanwhile, inside a van, other members of Rudiger's team are traveling. Phantos begins to sense the presence of a powerful prey. Alex and the professor talk about the most powerful member of their organization. Alex is surprised to learn that the protagonist is the second strongest person in their team, with Alex being the third. He wonders about the most powerful person among them. Outside the auction house, Evan is crying over the destruction of his business by the robbers, and is worried about the princess, as no one knows where she is after the attacks. He sends his personal guards to search for her, Suddenly, everyone outside the auction house is surprised when a large monster appears in front of them. This is Hans, who as a monster kills all the intruders. The monster jumps out of the auction house, and everyone is scared to death. The monster starts killing people one by one. Law enforcement agencies appear and want to stop the monster, but it's not easy for them. The police officer riding a horse challenges the monster and with his team attacks it, but it's useless. The monster is too big and powerful. The monster tries to grab the police officer, but he runs toward an alleyway. The princess, with her 3 friends, is just in front of the monster. Casey shows her presence of mind and leads these women toward the alleyway, saving their lives. The princess is very thankful. Casey remembers a monster that appeared 5 years ago in another kingdom, and the person who killed it, Abraham Van Helsing, also disappeared after that day. Casey recalls that the beast of Javaudan's body is displayed at the Durumong Museum, and she's seen it. This monster is very different from the old one. Now, she also remembers that James Moriarty is also here. Maybe Abraham and James are the same person, but right now, she must focus on this monster. She decides to attack it, but the monster is more powerful than her magic. It breaks her magic with its howls. Now Casey throws her powerful water magic, which attacks the monster in the shape of water soldiers. It slows the monster down. The police officer notices it and thinks to take advantage of the situation. With his men, they attack the monster as well. Now they are succeeding. Rudiger wants to help his friend but has already drained his powers, so he decides to return when he has more energy. On the other hand, Casey is losing her mana, meaning she can't hold the monster for long. Suddenly, a horde of rats appears from the city's gutters. The princess, Casey, and the others are worried. With the combined efforts of Casey and the police, they manage to cut off many of the monster's heads, but they keep growing back. Casey notices that the eyes on the monster's skull are also growing again and again. Now, she feels helpless, wondering how long she can hold it off. Casey is also scared of the rats. The rats quickly run toward the severed heads of the monster and combine themselves with them. To everyone's surprise, the rats start forming new werewolves by merging with the monster's heads. There are too many monsters now, and the police officers are trying their best to kill them. But there are too many, and they're too strong. Now the princess and all the other girls combine their magic to attack the werewolves, but it's useless. Betty suggests to her boss that they leave because it's out of their hands now. Casey is determined to evacuate the civilians first to a safe place. Suddenly, all the werewolves and the monster stop and start looking in the same direction. Betty shouts and tells Casey the monster isn't attacking right now. From the shadows, a masked man appears. The man is young and strong. Casey shouts, "It's James Moriarty!" But actually it's Rudiger. Now, the professor is thinking about his friend Hans. Whether he is alive or not, he must stop this now and forever. The monster also looks at our protagonist and concentrates all his focus on him. Others are not present there. Casey is sure that it's James, but others are willing to accept it, because that hero is also helping them in killing the monster. Rudiger starts cutting the monster's heads one by one. His speed surprises everyone. Casey thinks that James is using teleportation magic. Otherwise, how can he move so fast? He appears, attacks, and in the blink of an eye disappears. The princess wants to go far away from here, as it's very dangerous. Casey wants to know more about James because, in her point of view, James is more dangerous than the monster. The monster is getting weaker and weaker. Casey knows the heads of the monster will turn into more monsters. Our protagonist drops a kind of liquid on the monster, which slows down its speed, but still, it's a monster. The girls decide to run away from here. The professor's sword is very sharp, and now the monsters are bleeding from everywhere. When the professor sees its heads are still becoming werewolves, he takes out his guns and starts shooting them first. Now it's just the monsters and the professor. He starts shooting them one by one. After killing all the werewolves, Rudiger turns his attention to the main monster. He tells Hans to come out of it because it's not his body. The monster refuses, as it's not Hans anymore. Finally, our protagonist shoots the monster and takes it down. At the same time, his team appears. All the team members are wearing masks. They bring a large harpoon, and with that harpoon, they inject a magical liquid into the monster's neck. Suddenly, the monster turns into Hans. All the team members are worried about Hans's life because he is unconscious. Rudiger orders them to pick him up and leave before the knights arrive. On the other side, the knights hesitate to approach the monster's side. Casey appears from behind and calls James's name. They are seeing each other after a long time. Our protagonist informs her that it is better for her if she doesn't recognize him and leaves. Casey is determined and blames the professor for the killing of many people. The professor brings her attention to the civilians and robbers still present in the auction hall. She must go and save them first because, whether she catches him or not, the lives of the civilians are still in danger. Casey gets angry and thinks that James is threatening her with the lives of the stuck civilians. Now Rudiger changes his mind. He thinks that Casey is annoying but highly talented, so he can use her. Now Rudiger speaks some magical words, and all his team gets ready to magically disappear from there. But Casey attacks them in order to stop them from teleporting. Her assistant Betty also joins them. All 4 women are attacking them, but Rudiger is more powerful than them all. He easily throws them away. He is defending his team like a trained elite knight. When he sees the knights are coming, he decides to escape with his team right now. In the blink of an eye, they are gone. Casey is very angry and loudly shouts at James, "It's not over." She wants to kill James and his organization. Now, Casey is standing there, thinking about James Moriarty, the people who were killed there. Some children are also among them. She wishes all that can be solved with just talks. She wishes that James becomes a good man. In her heart, she still has feelings for him, but now, she is determined to arrest him and put an end to his organization. The commander of the Knights comes to Casey and thanks her for her efforts. The commander thinks that Casey killed the monster. He also informs Casey that the bomb has been recovered from the terrorists as she ordered. She orders him to leave the bomb for her so that she can analyze it. The Knights now return to the crime scene. She finds out that the gunpowder doesn't work, meaning the Liberation Army is not capable of doing such things after all. Now she suspects the Black Dawn, which is affiliated with James Moriarty. She needs to analyze the gunpowder she collects and understands very well that, in order to catch them, they need proper preparations. Now Hans is coming to his senses. After waking up, he finds Rudiger sitting next to him, reading a book. Hans wants to know what happened to him. Rudiger is surprised to know that he doesn't remember becoming a monster. Rudiger demands the relic piece from Hans, which he is holding in his hand. Hans hands over the object to the professor. Our protagonist is very happy to see this piece of the relic. He orders Hans to put some clothes on and come downstairs, where he wants to make an announcement to everyone. The professor talks about the auction house, as it is completely destroyed, and it will take some time to sell all the items they stole from the auction house. The team members are very happy because that will make them very rich. Rudiger appreciates his team's skills and teamwork. Ale teases Hans, saying it's his first time seeing a weak man transform into a huge monster. Ale also wants to discuss Casey, as he notices her using water magic. It's not a common practice among mages. Rudiger explains that Casey belongs to a noble family, and has also obtained the colors as a skilled mage. Our professor continues that he first met her in Delica Kingdom. Right now, in front of the auction house, the princess is worried about Betty because she isn't breathing. She has no pulse and her body is cold. The princess thinks that poor Betty has died. It's very sad. Casey comes, smiling, and explains to them that Betty is not a human. She is an autonomously driven machine. The princess is surprised to learn this. Casey explains that Betty can feel human emotions and fit into society. Actually, Betty was secretly created in Delica Kingdom several years ago. Now Casey starts talking about James. She has been after him for a long time. She knows that he is a mathematician but a very annoying one. After finding out that he is a criminal, she starts chasing him. Once she lost him in a factory, where James blasted a bomb in the basement and escaped. In that factory, Casey finds Betty in a glass capsule. She is the first successful product of an illegal project. Her codename is Beta. Now, in a group meeting of Rudiger's team, he explains to Alex that he punched an automaton. These are steel soldiers who can be destroyed anytime. Actually, these are made for war. Right now, Casey and the princess are saying their goodbyes to each other. Casey inquires about Tarina. The princess is surprised by this. Right now, at Theorn Academy, Rudiger is sitting in his office reading a newspaper. Its front page is filled with news about the monster, and very little news about the destruction of the auction house. He is worried about Casey, as she came here to find James, and it's not impossible for her to find him here. He realizes that he was wrong about the Black Dawn. His assistant appears in his office and informs him that she completed her work. Renee starts talking about the news of the day, but the professor ignores it, saying that everyone in the city is fussing about it. Everyone in the city thinks that the Knights captured the monster. Now, our protagonist wants to reanalyze the situation. Now, the Bretis Holy Knights are moving in the city. Another thing to worry about. There is an island separated from the continent and their headquarters, where they believe in the god of luminance. These people are hunting cryptids under the excuse of saving humanity. Because of corruption, this organization is not very popular. Our protagonist is worried about these holy knights. He can only make assumptions right now. The assistant informs him that she has chosen Joanna Lovett from the Second Order, and she is from Duramon Kingdom. She is a survivor of the Great Fire of Lotan, and only 3 people survived from that fire. Our protagonist starts preparations for his class today. He wants to announce the results of the previous exams. Now in the classroom, our protagonist is announcing the results. The first ones are Flora Lumos and Julia Plumhart, both of whom get 100% marks. The third place is Tacy. Aiden and Leo are very happy about their friend. Rennie is surprised to know that she is in 4th place, and Leo gets 5th place. The nobles are jealous because all the position holders are fallen nobles. Rudiger distributes the frameworks among the position holders. Now the professor starts today's lecture, which is about the Manus Circle. He begins explaining the traditions and beliefs behind their magic. Rudiger writes some strange numbers on the board, which the students are unable to read. All the students start looking at Laura. She is a little annoyed because of this situation. She has no clue about these numbers in today's topic. The professor realizes the situation and starts explaining it in detail to his students. He performs a practical experiment, creating a circle of fire on the blackboard. He explains it in great detail. As expected, only Flora is able to answer, and she completely understands the real concept of the flow of mana. Now the students start practicing this magic trick with their own hands, under Rudiger's instructions. Among the students, Leo really impresses our protagonist. Outside the academy, a few aristocrat students are harassing a female beastman student. She is quiet and listens to all these insults, getting angrier. Suddenly Leo appears, stops them, and threatens them with Professor Rudiger. It works, and they leave her alone. She wants to know why he helped her. He replies that he didn't help her. He actually saved these noble students from her, because a beastman can kill humans very easily. He also understands that, as a beastman, she joined the academy because she wants to learn more and is a good student. By hearing that, Perquia Solda, the beastman, realizes that Leo is a good human. After some time, Aiden and Tacy join them. Aiden introduces the beastman to his friends. They all go for lunch together. Rennie is walking toward the garden, thinking about the test, which seems very easy from her point of view. She wonders why she didn't ask Rudiger's any questions, since she could have easily. On her way, she runs into Sunbae, who has been looking for her everywhere. Sunbae invites her for lunch, but she refuses, saying she already promised to have lunch with someone. The princess is surprised to know that Rennie is seeing someone. As Rennie starts walking deeper into the garden, Sunbae becomes a little suspicious and starts thinking someone is seducing her. So, she decides to let her find out for herself. To her surprise, she discovers that Proyden Wolberg and Rennie are sitting together and eating lunch in their secret spot. Sunbae is surprised and wants an explanation from the nobleman. The nobleman, a confident and smart student, replies that if she has a problem with him, he is a little angry with her. He explains that the reason she doesn't have any friends is because she is very judgmental. She doesn't accept it at all. Now, they start talking about her sister, the first princess, who is very rude and now rules their kingdom. He also adds how she took over the kingdom and after that, forgave her siblings. Now everyone is scared of her shadow. Yes, that's right, the first princess's shadow. The princess, Sunbae, thanks them for the food. No doubt Proyden is a skilled cook. Now Rennie wants to know if it's true that Sunbae saw the monster. Sunbae is happy that she's alive after that encounter. The princess is very happy that she now has two friends who care about her. She then remembers Casey's words when she told her to lie about the person who took care of the monster. So she lies, saying the Clockwork Knights killed the monster. She also reveals that she saw Professor Rudiger in the auction house that day. In the Chancellor's office, a few professors are gathered, arguing about the upcoming magic festival. They want the festival to start on time, as it's an honor for the city and for people around the world to come here, but the Chancellor wants to delay it. Professor Hugo, who is also the Vice-Chancellor, pressures the Chancellor to start the event on time. However, due to the recent events and the upcoming exams, the Chancellor wants to delay it and start it after the exams. Finally, all the professors agree with the Chancellor. Our protagonist is sitting in his office, reading the orders about the magic festival being delayed due to the current situation. He thinks about how all the people of Theorn will be present, and he can easily show them Esmeralda's true nature because she will attack there. He's also thinking about visiting Lotan as soon as possible. As he's lost in thought, Flora enters his office, a little late, and apologizes for it. Flora is interested in what she saw in his office library last time. The professor explains that it's called a supercube, and that he's learned that mana energy can be transferred into the fourth dimension. He tells her not to tell any other students about it, which she agrees to. The professor and his friend Hans are getting off the train at Duramon Kingdom's Lotan village station. Both are carrying their bags. Hans is pretty tired and asks about their visit to this burned village. The village is completely burned due to the Great Fire. Rudigers explains that he's looking for a highly skilled person. After walking for some distance, Rudigers notices a young man standing on top of a mountain, painting. As they get closer to him, they're surprised to find out he's painting with a blindfold. The man with the blindfold is actually blind, and lost both of his eyes in the Great Fire of Lotans. The blind man introduces himself as Pierre. He explains that before the fire, this village was a very beautiful place. Our protagonist is interested in learning about the other survivors of the Great Fire. The blind man informs them about Esmeralda. He says she's a kind-hearted person, born with an affinity. Hans and Rudiger are surprised when Pierre brings the village back to life using a painting magic. Now, they start walking through the village, which is beautiful. Esmeralda is a young, beautiful girl, but she's very innocent. One day, a noble comes to the village and proposes to her, which she accepts. The noble is a wicked person after her affinity with the spirits. Rudiger and Hans are curious about why the villagers didn't stop her from marrying him. Pierre explains that going against the nobles is considered high treason, and no one dares to do it. Hans speaks up, asking if no one stops her. The blind man continues, explaining that not at first, but after some time, all the villagers gathered for Esmeralda and stopped the noble. The noble got angry, called them lowlifes, and ordered the villagers to be killed and the village burned. That's how the Great Fire happened there. Hans says that this is the untold truth of Lotan's Great Fire. Esmeralda begs the nobleman to stop killing his people, and she is ready to do anything he wants from her. But the nobleman replies that it's too late. These common people must understand the consequences of messing with the nobles. He orders his army to kill all the villagers and then bring the woman to him. After burning down the entire village, as they are about to take Esmeralda, who is lying on the ground, crying like a crazy person, she suddenly transforms into a fire monster and kills all the soldiers by burning them alive. She shouts loudly, declaring that she is going to burn all the nobles because she hates them all. After killing all the soldiers, she disappears. A young girl then saves Pierre. Now Rudiger understands the reason why Esmeralda is killing all the nobles. He orders Hans to find out about the noblemen in the story. It's clear to the professor why the Duramon kingdom is declining. They are trying to hide the reality from the world. At the Thorn Academy on the day of the second test, Professor Rudiger calls his students by their numbers, and they go to the stage one by one. Rudiger explains their mistakes and appreciates their good work. Some students are very scared, as if they are walking toward a slaughterhouse. Now our protagonist calls number 13, Aiden's number. He hurries up and reaches the stage. The professor is very happy with his work and explains how he can get better results. The importance of learning magic poems becomes diluted. The nobles are angry because commoners are getting better grades than nobles. Next is Flora Lumos, who as expected, draws the hexagonal tortoise theory. There are no faults in the calculation, and she gets an A+. Afterward, it's Renee's turn, but she is empty-handed. The professor demands an explanation from her. She didn't bring her exam form. She explains that she drew a magic form, but it's too complicated to write down. So, she wants to show him its practical example here in the classroom. Our protagonist inquires, and she creates a three-dimensional magic form in the air. The professor is amazed by her performance and gives her an A+, but demands to know how she did it. Renee starts explaining it to him. She is very passionate in explaining it. Now Rudiger acknowledges that she has unknowingly unlocked her potential talent because her magic powers are naturally flowing. The professor names the top 5 students in this test, and to everyone's surprise, Renee is one of them. Only 2 nobles are in the top 5 students, and the noble students are not able to digest it at all. The way Rudiger is appreciating students has never been seen before. Now the noble students are discussing it. Outside the classroom, Renee notices Flora staring at her. Before Renee says anything, Sunbae interrupts her, asking if there is something on her mind. Flora just ignores her and leaves. Now Flora is sitting in her class, and her close friend is trying her best to talk to her, but she is still ignoring her. She has never shown any interest in any other student. Now Flora wants to know from her friend about her preparation for the exam. Her friend is surprised to learn that Flora is showing some interest in her studies. Flora reminds her of the warning from Professor Mary, that she will be transferred to another class if she doesn't fully engage in her studies. Flora gives her friend some notes to memorize and assures her that if she memorizes them completely, she will never fail. After the exam, Professor Mary explains that mana can be transferred between 2 people, but it can be very dangerous if the person transferring the mana is inexperienced. In this process, one of them can lose their memory. She offers her students to try this if anyone wants to. Flora wants to know if it has any side effects. Professor Mary explains that yes, it's possible. She also explains that they should try it in pairs. Now Sunbae and Renee are thinking about trying it with one another. On the other hand, Flora and her friend are also planning to try it with each other. All the students are trying it in pairs. Flora's best friend is a little hesitant to do this process, and Flora is curious as to why. Finally, they try it. Not long after, Flora's friend grabs her by the neck and starts cursing her. Now it's Renee and Sunbae's turn. After completing the memory transfer process, Princess Sunbae gets tears in her eyes. She explains to Renee that she saw her memories from early life, as a child, living in a small town where her mother loved her a lot. Now Renee is surprised because she never saw her mother and has always lived without her parents, as an orphan. Now Princess Sunbae wants to know about Renee's past. Strangely, Renee has no memories before the age of 10. All she remembers is meeting her teacher, an old man, when she was 10. Even her teacher is not related to her. It's very strange to know. Both girls are sitting in the garden, face to face. Sunbae thinks that Renee's teacher must be somehow related to her past and her parents. Now Sunbae makes it her mission to bring back Renee's memory, as she is the only true friend to her. As both girls are discussing Renee's memory, suddenly their noble friend appears in front of them. He is a little rude to Sunbae as he calls her third princess. When he inquires about Renee's sadness, Sunbae replies that it's between the 2 girls. Henry also appears there as a rude noble. Renee tells Sunbae that it's Henry who introduced her to the part-time job. Now Sunbae is very angry at him. As an apology, he offers her a better part-time job. To Sunbae's surprise, Renee accepts the offer. Sunbae tries to stop her because Thorn's scholarship is so well built. The noble friend explains that the scholarship program mostly supports nobles, not commoners, and after that he leaves. A girl from the Wegner family is waiting for him because he received a proposal from her. Both of their families are planning to visit the academy during the magic festival. 2 students are sitting in the canteen and discussing Rudiger Chelsea. These 2 students are talking about Professor Rudiger and the exams he is taking from the students. Flora's parents want her to have lunch with this noble boy. In the future, they want them to get married, but it looks like Flora is not interested at all in the noble boy. The boy senses it and makes it clear to Flora that he is going to tell his parents that he is not interested in that marriage. He also tells her that he did not like the food, stands up, and starts walking away from her. Flora only wants to know if Dirid Mandragora is good for health or not. This situation is quite funny because both of them are not interested in each other. Right now, our protagonist is sitting in his office and reading a report on the magic festival. Basically, magic festivals are competitions where mages duel with each other. Professor Hugo Boratag is planning to increase the influence of aristocratic professors by making them win more duels against commoners. Since he is also very busy with other issues, he cannot afford to waste his time on this festival. He is also thinking about the banquet incident, and Black Dawn is quiet after that. There are reports from Sanada, and he is curious about the next move of Esmeralda. Suddenly he receives a call from his friend, Hans. Rudiger worries about what happens this time with Hans. Hans explains the purpose of his call. He finds out a noble family for whom they are looking. Within 2 hours, the professor reaches that noble's estate. At the door, he starts observing the details. There is no mail, which means the noble lives there alone. Before he can knock on the door, someone opens it with a surprise and attacks our protagonist. But he manages to take the attacker down. The attacker shouts that if they are sent by the devil to kill him, then they should do it. But the professor calms him down. Now he inquires if the man looks like the noble who started the Great Fire of Lotan. His name is Professor Krallo-Phoebius. Rudiger knows his name and address because when Hans called him, he gave him the details. Hans informs him about the Phoebius ducal family. After the Great Fire in Lotan, nobles were exiled. Almost on a daily basis, nobles started disappearing, one by one. Recently, the head of the ducal family died by burning alive in front of his family, without any known cause for the fire. The professor is curious if any member of the ducal family is still alive. Hans informs him that only one member is alive. His name is Krallo-Phoebius, and surprisingly, he is living in Theorn. Right now, the professor is sitting with Krollo in his house. Rudiger shows him a dog tag that belongs to a secret squad affiliated with the military. The noble is thinking about the intruder and also wondering if he is trying to help him. The professor warns Krollo that it's better for him to give the right answers. Krollo now remembers the professor, realizing that he is the one who killed the monster a few days ago. The noble recognizes the dog tag and explains that it's his, since he was serving in a Black Ops team. Things are getting clearer to Rudiger. Esmeralda attacked the banquet just to kill Krollo. She is still after him. Now he wants to find out how much this noble knows about Esmeralda. Krollo explains that it's a fire demon who is after his family, a young and beautiful woman in her mid-20s. She has black hair and a mature face, but still looks younger than her age. Our protagonist asks if he has anything else to show him, like a name or place. Krollo hands over a letter from her, which says that she is going to kill him at the end of the magic festival. Rudiger is worried, as it's only 10 days away, and wonders how he can protect him. Rudiger advises him not to make any mistakes and to relax, then leaves. Now, it's the first day of the festival. Renée and Sunbae are walking through the festival. It's Renée's first time attending any festival, so Sunbae wants her to make many memories and have fun with her. There are different kinds of farms. Some show good spirits, others show hunted people by bad spirits, and some college students are dressed as zombies. From a distance, Renée sees Professor Rudiger and Professor Selena both walking together. This is because all the professors are patrolling in pairs. Professor Selena is interested in a shop selling magic potions, but our protagonist is thinking about Esmeralda and when she is going to make her move. He plans to use Krollo as bait to catch her, but he wonders when and how she is going to attack. It could be very dangerous for other people present at the festival. On the last day of the festival, he needs to make a good plan for it. Professor Selena notices that Rudiger is not listening to her. She puts her finger to his face to remind him that she's talking to him. He explains that there are many important things running through his mind right now. As they are talking, he notices Leo standing in front of the shooting stand with his friends. They invite him to participate in a practice, which is very easy for him because he already served in the army. He shoots down all the targets in one go and wins the prize, a little doll, which he gives to his female student before leaving. Both professors are enjoying each other's company while patrolling. Rudiger asks if Professor Selena is taking part in duels at the festival. Since Selena is not a fan of fighting, she tells the professor that she is not. Now it's late at night and both are tired and want to end today's patrol. Suddenly, Rudiger notices Krallo-Phoebius running in front of him. He is surprised to see Krollo at this festival. The professor starts chasing Krollo. After some time, he finds him in the corner, sitting on a girl and grabbing her by the neck. Rudiger shouts, questioning what he is doing and reminding that he already told him to do nothing during the festival. Krollo explains that this is the demon trying to kill him, and now that he has her, he is going to kill her. Rudiger recognizes that girl. Yes, it's Esmeralda. Suddenly, Professor Selena appears and faints from seeing the sight. Our protagonist quickly holds her in his arms, telling Krollo to take the girl to a safe place. Suddenly, Krollo shouts that the evil is near him and Rudiger should save himself. Before the professor understands what's going on, Selena changes her personality and becomes Esmeralda, scaring both of them. Crollo faints, but our protagonist has very strong nerves, though she is also surprised. Esmeralda explains that she is in Professor Selena's body and can come out whenever she wants to kill these nobles. Now she plans to kill Crollo on the last day of the festival. Rudiger wants to know if Selena knows about this or if she's naive. Esmeralda explains that she is as innocent and lovable as she used to be, but that noble burned her village, and now she seeks revenge. She possesses Selena's body, and Selena has no idea about it. Suddenly, Esmeralda disappears, and Selena appears. The professor takes her to the infirmary, thinking about how he can kill Selena, that innocent girl, but he wants to stop Esmeralda at any cost. Suddenly, Selena wakes up but doesn't remember anything before she fainted, which makes our protagonist relax. Selena thanks Rudiger for taking care of her and bringing her to the hospital. It's very clear she has a liking for our hero. Right now, someone enters the professor's office and searches for something. The intruder finds out that our protagonist is using a magical medicine to increase his mana. Now it's the second day of the magic festival, and all the mages and nobles are gathered at the festival hall. Inside, the head of one of the three ducal families, Hybeck from the Katatush family, and the head of the Lumos family, are arguing with each other when they see the Chancellor approaching them. The Chancellor inquires about the third family head, as she is expecting him. In her point of view, Hybeck only arrives because of his daughter, who is studying at this academy. From outside, Professor Hugo appears and starts showing his guests his organizational skills, as this festival is organized by him. Outside in the arena, today's hosts introduce themselves to the public and announce the participants of the first duel, Professor Malhin Gomerit, and on the other hand, the most famous Professor Rudiger Chelsea. The professor is thinking about the last day of the festival and doesn't want to waste any more time on these duels, so he decides to lose easily and go down quickly. Professor Malhin is a member of Hugo's group, a noble. Rudiger understands that now. The match begins, and our protagonist wants to lose this match as quickly as possible, so he stands still and does nothing. For a long 5 minutes he stands still, waiting for his opponent to attack. But it seems like Malhin is also waiting for Rudiger to attack. It's a very funny situation. Rudiger wants to lose, and Malhin is scared of him, thinking that if he attacks first, Rudiger will counterattack and finish him off. After 5 minutes, Malhin attacks, but his attack is so pathetic that losing to it would be an insult to our protagonist. So, he decides to finish it himself and knocks him out with a single attack. Now Malhin is lying unconscious on the arena's ground. After that, he returns to his office, where he notices that someone is already searching his office. But nothing has been stolen, except for the bottle of mana medicine, so the nobles are after him. Our hero uses mana while he breathes and uses magic without it. It's not possible for him. Anyways, he has no other choice but to return to the arena. Now it's time for his second match, and his opponent is Professor Devian Borotag, a family member of Professor Hugo Borotag. As the duel starts, Professor Devian calls our protagonist and shows him the bottle of his mana, so it's Devian who stole it from his office. Devian accuses him of using the mana medicine to perform magic. Our hero understands that all the nobles are now his enemies, and he must stay careful around them. Rudiger warns him to return the medicine before it's too late, but Devian is arrogant and rude. He challenges him to fight, knowing his little secret, and asks if Rudiger can win the duel without his mana. After a few seconds, Devian attacks Rudiger with a powerful spell, but to his surprise, Rudiger dodges it easily. Our protagonist looks ill. From a distance, the Chancellor watches him and wants to stop the match, but Hugo doesn't allow it as it's against the rules, and since it's the last fight of the day, it's better to continue. Professor Devian is a skilled mage, and all the nobles are backing him. Devian creates a magical wall between him and Rudiger. Now there are no other choices left for our protagonist than to teach his opponent a lesson. With a powerful light, he knocks his opponent out. There is a very bright light that surprises everyone, and Devian is lying on the ground, unconscious. Inside the hospital, Devian is lying on the bed, still unconscious. Professor Hugo is standing next to him, worried about his condition, asking the doctor about his state. The doctor replies that Devian is physically fine, but they are unable to figure out what is wrong with him. Professor Hugo is very angry at the doctors, thinking that they are not doing their duties properly. Suddenly, our protagonist enters the room and wonders about Devian's health. Hugo blames him for it. Rudiger explains that Devian is in a mental shock and will come to his senses very soon. Hugo blames our hero for using unknown magic on his noble friend, but Rudiger denies it, informing Hugo that it was their misdoing that forced him to use that powerful magic. Now, the old Duke of Hybeck and the Chancellor enter the room and inquire about Devian's health. The Duke of Hybeck is more interested in our protagonist. He starts talking to Rudiger and shows his respect for his high level of skills. The Chancellor takes our hero outside the room where a lot of nobles are gathered just to meet with Rudiger. After spending some time with the nobles, he steps outside where he sees Flora. To his surprise, Flora is waiting for him. At first, he thinks she is here to talk to her father, Duke Lumos, but she wants to speak with him about something. Flora, being a little cocky and rude, does not show her feelings toward him. She only informs him that she is participating in the next match and is not worried about her opponent, as she trusts her skills. Rudiger tells her that he is going to watch her match and leaves from there. Now he remembers that Hans and Sheridan are waiting for him. There, by the fountain, both are standing. Rudiger approaches them and invites them to the festival. On normal days, commoners are not allowed to enter the zone, but since it's a festival, they can come inside. Sheridan is very happy, but Hans is surprised. Inside the festival, a first-year professor is showcasing a new golem, demonstrating it to the public. It's a large ball-like machine made of iron, but when a mana stone is placed inside, it transforms into a working, moving machine. It can also transform into a horse. Sheridan is very excited about it, so she asks Rudiger to have a closer look, which he allows. Suddenly, a woman accidentally bumps into our protagonist and asks him for directions to the arena. He guides her, but Casey thinks she has met our professor before. It's not true, but he replies to her. She starts looking at him from head to toe. By observing him closely, she figures out that he is a professor at the academy. The professor is surprised by her observations. She explains that he is neither a noble nor a wealthy merchant. He looks like a fallen noble who teaches at the academy. Finally, she calls him by his name, Professor Rudiger Chelsea, the most famous new professor at Theorn. Just from his dressing, she figures out most of the details about Rudiger. He thinks to himself that one should never underestimate Casey Selmoy. Now he starts ignoring her and leaves the area. She thinks to herself that normal people get excited when she tells them details about themselves, but he is different. The first person who ignores her, just like him, is James Moriarty. Now, Rudiger and Hans are sitting next to the fountain, looking at Sheridan, who is busy discussing the robot with the professors. It looks like they also enjoy talking to her. Hans notices that the professor is smiling while looking at the students. Hans is surprised to see him smiling like that, as Rudiger rarely smiles. To his surprise, Rudiger doesn't want to be here. Hans also wants to know why Rudiger treats him so differently, considering he is just a few years older than his students. On Rudiger's inquiry, Hans informs him that he is only 24 years old. The professor wants to know about the antidote for werewolves and its hallucinogenic properties. Hans confirms that it seems like it's from Paluma. The professor remembers when someone was telling him to take care of his siblings as that person was dying. Rudiger explains to Hans that in their line of work, one should always be aware of death. It's a bitter truth in their field. Now it is the third day of the Magic Festival. Outside the banquet hall, large tables of food and chairs are arranged beautifully. Rudiger is sitting next to Duke Hybeck. Our hero finds this Duke very annoying, so he decides to ask him what he really wants from him. Duke Hybeck explains that he is just looking for entertainment. Now the professor can't bear him any longer. While they are talking, Flora Lumos appears. She is very nicely dressed but looks upset. Our protagonist wonders about her presence here. The Duke informs him that she belongs to the Lumos family. These are the nobles. But that child never gets any attention from her family because she is an illegitimate child of Duke Lumos. However, she is born with extraordinary qualities. Nervous, Flora starts walking towards the young nobles. Actually, she wants to show her father that she is very different from the child she used to be. Now she is very educated and highly skilled. She calls the names of her siblings, Kamal Lumos and Katrina Lumos. Her siblings call her a half-blood and a filthy person, asking why she is calling their names. They get angry at her just because she makes eye contact with them, and they complain to their father. Now Flora is powerless and cannot speak a word. Our protagonist reaches her and holds her by the shoulder, asking if she is facing any problems. Actually, Duke Hybeck has given our protagonist some insight into the nature and beliefs of the Lumos family. They belong to the Lumensis Church, and in their beliefs, those who are legitimate children of the Lumos family are superior beings, while those born illegitimate are subhumans who can never be equal to them. The subhumans must always respect and obey the superior humans. Rudiger thinks it's not Flora's fault that she was born into the Lumos family. That's why he is here to help her. Sitting on his chair, Duke Hybeck is thinking about Rudiger and how he went to the help of his student, even though he had to face Duke Lumos. He is a very interesting person. Duke Lumos asks Rudiger to leave this family matter alone very politely, but the professor is determined to protect his student. He wants to know why they are insulting her. Her brother and sister are very rude, so he wants to know why he is protecting this low-life person and how she gets good grades from him. There is no need to respect her, as she is an illegitimate child. Now everyone is looking at them, and Flora is feeling ashamed and very uncomfortable. Suddenly, Katrina recognizes him and introduces herself to him. She tells him that she is going to join the academy next year and asks if he can evaluate her magic skills. She shows her skills by creating a magic circle. The professor finds 3 mistakes in it and gives her minus 30 points. All the nobles sitting near them stand for Katrina Lumos. They are shouting that this fallen noble professor has no right to insult a noble person like that and that they should take some actions against him. Duke Hybeck suddenly comes to Rudiger's help and calms everyone down by introducing the professor. When Duke Lumos finds out about Rudiger's identity, he personally apologizes to him for his daughter's misbehavior. Now Kamal Lumos wants his father to take action against the professor, but he refuses to do anything about it and leaves from there. Now Flora wants to say thanks to our hero, but she is not able to say anything. Our professor leaves from there with Duke Hybeck, both walking in the garden. Flora's friend Cheryl comes to her and wants to know if she is all right. Flora replies that she is fine now thanks to Rudiger. While walking, Duke Hybeck explains to the professor how Flora's mother saved her from being branded as a subhuman child. Now he leaves our protagonist, saying he is going to greet other people. Suddenly a fly comes close to our professor. It's Sinida's paper magic, it's a message. Joanna Lovett, the second order Joanna in the center, another order shows suspicious actions. Now it's clear that Esmeralda is making a move, but she told us that she would come at the last day of the festival. Why so early? Now Rudiger must do something about it. On the fourth day of the magic festival, in the experimental pharmaceutical lab, our protagonist is gathering some chemicals when the professor, who is already there working on some medicine, inquires about his presence in the lab. Rudiger explains that he wants to make some medicine for himself. Chris rudely asks him if he knows how to make medicines in the first place. Both professors exchange some hard words at each other. Chris wonders if the professor also knows medicine. It's extraordinary. He is surprised by the skills and knowledge he has. It's very interesting to watch him work so expertly. After the completion of the process, Rudiger produces some mana recovery pills. The professor has used some bad pills in the duels, so he apologizes to Rudiger. Since the professor used some dangerous ingredients in the medicine, Chris informs him that it's very dangerous for his nervous system. He offers him his family's special mana sedative. After that, our professor goes out and calls Hans in to inquire about Krollo and his activities. Hans explains that Krollo is not leaving his room, and Joanna Lovett is not making any moves right now. They want to know if they are moving in two different groups. Last time when the professor encountered Esmeralda, she behaved differently. Now he must keep an eye on them. About 30 minutes later, inside the Thorn students' dormitory, Leo is working in the lab when he finds out something special. It's preparations for the final match. The professor is happy that his message is received. At first, he is not willing to involve a student, but Joanna cannot notice a student easily. He really wants Aiden to help him out because he and his friends can really make a difference. Aiden is the one who can manage a fight with his magic. There is a chance of mistake from him, so he decides to take some safety measures. At the same time, Rudiger calls Hans and orders him to conduct reconnaissance in another area. Now his preparations are complete. Now Aiden is reading the professor's message to find Joanna Lovett at the last day of the festival and kill her. Now he is a little confused. Maybe it's a joke. But the information on the letter is very specific. Now he is sharing the new information with his friends that some suspicious people are hiding in the academy and have dangerous motives. The person who is sending this information is introduced as a special informant of the Liberation Army and is now blackmailing him. To Aiden's surprise, when he shares this information with his friends, they confirm that they are all receiving the same kind of information in the form of messages, just like him. At night, Esmeralda is watching a dream where a nun is looking at her and telling her to stop killing people, and that it's not a good thing to do. She is scared and wants to run away from here. Suddenly she wakes up. Now she is thinking that she will stop her revenge after killing Krollo. She is not going to continue her revenge beyond it, because if she does, her soul will die forever. Now she is thinking about Selena, how innocent and beautiful she is. She really wants to live in that identity forever. It's her fight with her own past. Can she stop now when the person who killed her entire village is still alive? No, she tells herself it's not possible. Krollo must die. Now, this is the fifth and last day of the festival. Everyone is enjoying. Selena is walking towards the hall when suddenly her other identity comes out. Yes, Esmeralda. Krollo is hiding in his room. He also knows that it's the last day of the festival. Esmeralda opens his room's door and calls his name. Outside his house, he sees a large number of rats. He starts following them because he thinks that Rudiger sent them to show him the direction to a safe place. Esmeralda is very happy that Krollo is trying to run away from her because she enjoys it more when someone struggles like that. Hans is very happy to see Krollo understands their message and starts following the rats. Rudiger is standing at the top of a building, keeping an eye on everything. He gives a green signal to his team and all start action. Right now, Aiden is walking toward the festival to obey the commands received in the messages. His female friend is trying to stop him. She also wants Leo to stop Aiden, but Aiden is not going to stop. A little distance into the forest, Joanna and her team are ready to attack the festival. She is waiting for the final order from Black Dawn, willing to do anything for her organization. Leo and his friends recognize her. On the dark road, Krollo is running like a crazy person, and Esmeralda is chasing him. When suddenly Krollo stops, she starts laughing and tells him to keep running, as he can't escape from her today. All his family members burned and died, just like she is going to kill him. Now Krollo is tired of running like that. He stops and confronts her. She killed all his family just because he burned and killed all the villagers. Esmeralda replies to him that yes, it's because of that. Now Krollo explains himself that to disrespect a noble is a punishable offense, and those villagers were rightly punished by him. Suddenly, she starts seeing all the people who died in the Great Fire, and all are blaming her for their deaths. Now Esmeralda is confused because she is taking their revenge on the nobles, and now all the dead are blaming her for their deaths. She is unable to understand the situation. Suddenly, she turns herself into a large pillar of flames. Hans, from a distance, points at the flames and informs Rudiger about it, saying these flames are coming from the storage room. Hans controls the fire. Rudiger is calling his other team members and asking about the festival. The professor is rushing toward the storage room where Esmeralda and Krollo are arguing with each other. On the professor's orders, Sheridan starts the fireworks in the academy. Everyone in the city is looking at the fireworks because it's 30 minutes early. Actually, these are only to divert the attention of the people. The professor is using his mana to protect his Aetherian Nocturnus, so he starts riding a transforming golem. Now Esmeralda turns herself into a large monster, a monster made of fire. Now Rudiger is playing a mind trick on the fire monster. He tells the monster he came here to help Esmeralda because she is his best friend and not to stop the fire. The monster looks at him, which means the monster still understands humans. Things are very complicated here. As the summoner personally summons it, he needs to capture the summoner. The professor wants to use a tranquilizer to capture Esmeralda. Now he needs to get close to the monster in order to take a shot at it. Right now, Casey Selmoy is walking alone in the garden outside the festival hall, wondering where her assistant Betty is. Suddenly she notices 5 strangely looking people standing behind the bushes. She sneaks up to them and starts listening to them. They are saying they are doing it only for Black Dawn. They are standing in a circle and have black hair, which means it's Joanna. Now there are a few students who are also following them. Casey is observing them both now. Rudiger is still getting close to Esmeralda, but suddenly, the monster hides her from him. He is surprised to see how the monster is acting on its own without the direction of the summoner. It must be Black Dawn's first order, Aether Nocturnus. Now the professor has no other choice but to borrow God's power again. Now Rudiger attacks the monster with the help of his robot. The monster throws its firepower at him. Our protagonist is trying to block it. Right now, the professor is hiding behind the golem robot, but its defense is breached. He will have no other choice but to face the monster head-on. Our protagonist wants to use a tranquilizer to capture Esmeralda. For that, he must get near for a clean shot. Its poison is very powerful, and there's no time for him to think about it, so he uses the magic spell, Quasimodo. It's a rank 5 magic. The air around the monster is changing. This is Ocean Range, and a blue circle of wind surrounds the monster. In the forest, Aiden and his 3 friends are following Joanna. Suddenly, Joanna finds out about their presence and catches them. Both groups are confronting each other. Aiden is very angry at Joanna's plans to kill innocent people at the Happy Festival. Joanna accuses them of abusing other people for their own pleasure. Aiden rejects her accusations. Joanna clears her intentions of killing everyone at the festival, including Aiden and his friends first. Joanna quickly attacks the students with her magic. The students are helpless and unable to protect themselves from her attack. Just before Joanna succeeds in killing them all, Casey appears in front of the students and shields them from Joanna's attack, as she cannot leave people alone when they truly need her. The students recognize Casey Selmoy and get curious about what a Celadon mage is doing here. Casey understands that these are the members of Black Dawn. She informs the students that she also has business with the Black Dawn organization. On the other side of the forest, our protagonist is hiding behind the protective shield of his robot. Now his only chance is to use the higher power. The fire monster is shouting that it is going to kill them all. Our professor is surprised to see the arm of the monster start growing back in an instant. Rudiger needs time to complete the higher magic from the byproduct. Now he can only use it 2 more times. But the golem robot won't be able to protect him for long. Rudiger gives his super mana magic power to the golem robot. Now the monster is surprised by the strength of it, as the golem starts pushing it back. The monster attacks the golem with its full strength and throws it away. When the monster turns toward Rudiger, it cannot find him here. To the monster's surprise, our protagonist is flying high in the sky, holding Esmeralda in his arms. Casey knocks out all the friends of Joanna, and now she demands a surrender from Joanna. Suddenly, they all notice a flying ship in the sky. Suddenly, Joanna starts running toward the direction of the ship, and Casey starts chasing her. Casey has many things in her mind right now. Who is in that ship, and why is Joanna running like a crazy person? Casey also wants to know about the magic that creates such a ship, which flies in the sky. Maybe it's Lexler, the magic adventurer. Our protagonist is in that ship right now, and it's called the Oceanic Icebreaker. Rudiger successfully recovers Esmeralda from the fire monster. The monster is very angry and curses our hero for taking her from it. Rudiger lands in the forest, still holding Esmeralda in his hands. She is still under the influence of the tranquilizer. The professor thinks he must seal Quasimodo before she gains consciousness, because when she wakes up, the monster Quasimodo will appear again, as her soul is attached to the summoner. Esmeralda starts gaining her senses and informs the professor that he must disappear from here before she loses complete control. This means the tranquilizer isn't working on her properly. Suddenly the monster appears again. It's strange because it recovers after being hit by 6th rank magic, and after the summoner loses complete control. The hero notices a red string connecting Esmeralda with Quasimodo. Now memories start flowing from the string into our protagonist. He can see when Esmeralda became connected with the monster on the day of the Great Fire. Now Rudiger understands. The monster offers him to join him. The professor explains that Esmeralda is just a host, and her magic power and mind have been leached off. It's actually Quasimodo who is behind it. Esmeralda is just a puppet, and now she is completely unconscious, so the monster can act freely. Now the monster wants to kill them all. Casey is still chasing Joanna. She is also at the site of the fire, behind which she can feel the magic of the oceanic icebreaker. The fire starts getting larger and larger. Casey starts using her water magic to control it. She also tells the students who are just behind her to go and find help quickly. Rudiger is trying to stop the monster, and the sealing ritual is his only option. Suddenly, Esmeralda wakes up and supports our hero. She wants him to do whatever is necessary to stop it, and she also recognizes her mistake. The professor puts her to sleep again, and wants her to remember all this as just a dream. Suddenly, two spirits appear to help Rudiger. He is very happy because it will give him the time he needs to attack and finish the monster. As the spirits distract the monster, our protagonist opens the ninth path, a release of purification, and the last living omnipotence, Sephiroth Tree's ninth Sephira. The professor releases the magic spell Yesod. A large yellow ray of light strikes the monster. The monster disappears into the air. Rudiger wonders whether it's dead. Rudiger is exhausted and happy that because of his carefulness, he has been able to hold back the god's power. Now Esmeralda returns to her senses. She recognizes him as John Doe. She is surprised to see that John Doe saved her life. Suddenly, a large hand of the fire monster appears from the earth and grabs Esmeralda. Rudiger is surprised to see that the monster is still able to regenerate after being struck by his powerful magic. The monster is not giving up that easily. Now the monster is trying to take energy from Esmeralda through their connection. The professor decides to start the sealing ceremony in the presence of the monster. Quasimodo does not want to miss his target this time. Suddenly Joanna appears and demands Esmeralda from the monster. She throws her magic eagle at it and cuts its arm off. Noticing that the monster is unable to regenerate its arm this time, Rudiger decides to start the sealing process right now. The monster warns Joanna not to interfere, because it's taking her revenge as well. Now Pierre appears. Joanna recognizes him as the person who saved her life. Pierre is here to help Rudiger because he finds out what has happened to the professor. He also informs him that the spirits helped him reach here. Pierre can only blind the monster, and after that, it will be easy for Rudiger to finish it off. Pierre chains the monster, giving our protagonist the time he needs. Now Rudiger wants to change the contract between Esmeralda and the monster and make a new one between Quasimodo and Noble, but the monster is fighting back to stop it, taking strength through the red rays from Esmeralda. Quasimodo is asking for help from Esmeralda to save him from disappearing. Rudiger and Joanna run to help Esmeralda. Esmeralda leaves the body of Lady Professor and starts going with the monster to the fire. Quasimodo is crying for Esmeralda's help and begging her to stop. But Esmeralda makes up her mind and wants to end all these useless killings. As both of them are close, they approach the fire that burns souls. Suddenly, Rudiger jumps and holds Esmeralda back, telling her that it's not worth losing her life that way. Quasimodo completely disappears, and all the souls of the villagers are released. Now Esmeralda's body starts turning into a spirit because she has been in contact with the monster for so long. Now she completely turns into a soul. A spirit of a nun from the village appears to comfort her by telling her that it's not her fault the villagers died in the fire. The nun's spirit takes Esmeralda's spirit with her to the heavens. Joanna wonders if that's the end of everything and all of them. Rudiger tells her no, it's not, and she must leave Thorn as soon as possible. Rudiger tells Joanna that this is a good chance for her to disappear forever, and he will tell everyone that she died with Esmeralda. Black Dawn won't be able to find her ever again. Pierre takes Joanna to their hometown. Rudiger reaches the professor, Selena. She is awake, and to his surprise, she remembers everything. She also remembers that she and Esmeralda shared their souls as well. She is very thankful to the professor for saving her life. Rudiger reminds her of their promise to enjoy the festival again next year. She smiles, making eye contact with him. Now the fireworks of the festival start. Medical teams are taking Professor Selena and Rudiger to the hospital. Casey is standing at the scene, observing everything. She is looking at the two Thorn professors found here. The energy of Dark Dawn is also present. Professor Rudiger left a deep impression on her. Now, she calls for the firefighters to control the fire. Meanwhile, Hans removes all the evidence from the scene. Our professor is happy that Hans and Sheridan escaped from the scene without drawing any attention. After giving some made-up reports to the Chancellor, our protagonist is sitting on a bench in the park. Suddenly, he hears a voice from behind a tree calling his name, John Doe. Rudiger remembers this voice from his encounter with Quasimodo, and the way it's addressing him, it must be someone below him. He is Black Dawn's Zero Order. The man explains the reason for his visit and demands to know about Rudiger's interaction with the monster. The professor is totally unaware of Dark Dawn's Zero Order visit to the festival. He is not clear on who informed them that he killed Quasimodo. Now the professor understands that the Zero Order has no idea about Quasimodo's death, because if they did, they wouldn't be inquiring with him. Rudiger apologizes for his late reply and shows his curiosity regarding his uniformed visit. Rudiger informs that person that Quasimodo is dead. Since it's a different species from them, it needs to be secretly hosted by someone. Now the Zero Order starts inquiring about Quasimodo's death. Our protagonist thinks about mixing the truth with lies because it's not safe to give all the right information. The Zero Order shows his concerns about Esmeralda's actions at the monster's death. He is unsatisfied by the fact that Quasimodo's body is sealed by Phoebus, because Phoebus does not possess such skills. Rudiger declines the possibility of any outside help for Crollo. Rudiger starts making up a fake story for the Zero Order. He tells him how he saw Crollo running for his life, with Esmeralda and Quasimodo chasing him. He is able to recognize Esmeralda and her monster just because of his presence at the banquet incident. He also knows about Esmeralda's revenge. Because of Esmeralda's careless behavior, which could reveal Dark Dawn to others, he starts chasing them. When Crollo finds another way to escape, he performs the ritual of sealing and sacrifices his own soul in the process. As Esmeralda and Quasimodo's souls are attached to each other, she is also sucked in with the monster. The Zero Order also asks how the professor is able to save himself. Rudiger explains that when he reaches there, Esmeralda's body changes into Professor Selena, so he makes an excuse to take her to the hospital and escapes from there. He also confirms that Esmeralda separated her soul from Selena's soul. When she wakes up, she does not remember anything about this incident. Through that fake story, our protagonist is able to satisfy the Zero Order. Rudiger is happy that he believes his story. The Zero Order informs him that there is space available in the First Order, so he is organizing an executive meeting. On this information, our protagonist is happy because it's a chance for him to see the other members of the First Order, but he has no idea about the meeting place. The professor reminds him of the terror attack on his train and how he lost some of his luggage. The stranger gives him a small box and disappears. Suddenly, the Chancellor appears in the park and inquires about his presence here. He explains to her that he is feeling a little dizzy, so he decides to take some rest here. The Chancellor offers her help to take him to the hospital. She shows her concern for Rudiger's health. In the hospital room, Rudiger confirms to her that he is well. She still cannot believe that Professor Crollo is behind that incident, and how some students are getting involved in such dangerous situations. Rudiger tells her that Professor Crollo and Joanna are involved in the banquet incident. The Chancellor talks about the all-powerful stone, and our protagonist confirms that he remembers. Rudiger puts the blame on Crollo for stealing the all-powerful stone, and reminds her of his words when he set the banquet on fire. It was to make Black Dawn happy. The Chancellor confirms the affiliation of Black Dawn with the all-powerful stone. The Chancellor wants to capture Crollo and investigate him. She is happy for the safety of his students. After some time, she leaves the room. Rudiger understands the limited information the Chancellor has on this case, but he still wants to get Professor Selena on the same page as him. Now the protagonist is checking the box that was given to him by the Zero Order and the red stone which appeared during Quasimodo's death. Our hero finds a ring in the small box, and there are engraved messages on the ring. It activates magic when worn. It's a dream magic ring, which transfers the wearer into the dream realm. It's a very smart move to arrange meetings in dreams. He also understands that some people become part of the First Order after the death of Quasimodo, including Victor Deadpool. Now it's his chance to learn about them. Inside the Chancellor's office, Casey is sitting in front of the Chancellor. After thanking Casey for her help in identifying the place and suspected people in that incident, she starts her inquiry from Casey, as she is interested in the details of it. The Chancellor wants to cross-check the facts she already has. To provide the right information, Casey demands a favor. Casey continues telling that because of the firewall, she is not able to see behind it and provides the basic information. The Chancellor looks satisfied with her statement. In Casey's statement, she finds out that Casey only sees 2 of her professors after the fire disappears, and before she notices, a few of her academy students and a few unknown members of an organization. Casey reaches the scene of the fire by chasing those members of the unknown organization. Now Casey wants to know about Professor Rudiger. The Chancellor regards him as an outstanding teacher of her academy. Now Casey is thinking about finding a way to learn more about Rudiger Chelsea, but it's not enough to tell her that he is an interesting person. Now, Casey requests to investigate the planted members of the organization in Thorn. Inside the hospital room, students come to visit Professor Selena and Rudiger, which he appreciates. After some time, he tells them to leave the room as it's disturbing other patients. Selena is very happy to see Rudiger right next to her bed. Suddenly, Flora opens the door and enters the room. She inquires about Rudiger's health. Meanwhile, Aiden enters the room with his loud voice, and Leo tells him to stay quiet. Now, Renee and Sunbae also enter the room, and it looks chaotic to Rudiger. Our young professor is very happy to see his students really care for him, but Renee is not happy to see Proyden Volberg among the students, and starts wondering about his presence here. After attending to their professors, all the students leave the hospital together, but Sunbae finds out that Proyden is still in the hospital. Inside the room, Rudiger cannot understand why Proyden is so curious about the incident. After all, it's their first time ever having a chat, but Proyden is thinking about something else. It seems like he made a mistake by coming here. Outside the hospital, Sunbae is angry at Proyden for his mysterious behavior with Rudiger. Sunbae is surprised and happy when Aiden calls her senior, and she allows Aiden to call her sister. but Renee warns her not to come close to Aiden. Flora is also thinking about the strange behavior of Proyden. There is something wrong about it. She knows him very well, as he never visits the hospital, even for people who are close to him. Our professor is released from the hospital, and he notices that Proyden is still walking after him. The professor doesn't want to talk to him anymore, but still, he is here. Proyden is thinking about the non-attributed mana book, which our protagonist gives to his assistant Rennie. He knows there is only one person who possesses such a book, and that person died. Since Rudiger has that book, Proyden is curious about the professor's scheme. Now our protagonist remembers Proyden and the incident. At that time he made a mistake by not covering his face. The professor calls him Wolberg's puppy and remembers that it was almost 12 years ago. Rudiger is curious to know the reason why Proyden is present in front of him. Proyden is surprised to see that Rudiger still cannot understand the purpose of his visit. Proyden informs the professor that he is the murderer of Renee's mother. Proyden is very angry at him, but the professor is not showing any kind of emotion at all because there is no need for him to do such an act. Proyden demands to know about the professor's presence in Thorn, but Rudiger is reluctant to answer his question at all. Rudiger thinks that Proyden has no authority to ask anything from him. Our protagonist tells Proyden to do whatever he wants and leaves from there. As he is walking, Proyden finds Renee there. She is curious and finds him still here. Proyden wants to tell her everything, but how? Rennie trusts and completely relies on Rudiger, and if he informs her that Rudiger is the one who killed her mother and erased her memories, she is not going to believe him. There is no strong evidence of it, and definitely, that truth is going to hurt her. Proyden is looking at the professor as his prey, and waiting for his chance to destroy him. Our protagonist is sitting in the park and worried about Wolberg's kid, as he knows too much. Now he is calling his friend Hans, waiting for updates about the investigation regarding the fire. Hans informs him that they are covering it as a malfunction of fireworks. If Chancellor Elisa is behind that cover-up, then they don't have to worry about it. They are discussing the captured members of Black Dawn, as they are imprisoned inside the Thorn. It worries our protagonist that Casey Selmoy is going to interrogate the captured members. Hans Rat informs him about it. Rudiger knows that she is going to find out about him anytime, and it is impossible to hide it from her. Hans is optimistic about the situation, and Rudiger has already gotten rid of the First Order. Hans wants to meet our protagonist in person, as he wants a long conversation about the underground business. Right now, the head of the Silver Sun organization, Carlone, is talking to his team members. He is demanding answers from Temelin and is angry with them for not taking care of some back alley hobos. Temelin informs him about a person known as the Owner. They want Carlone to kill a person named the Owner, and there isn't much information about him. One of the members comes up with the name James Moriarty. Suddenly, the head of Silver Sun shoots and kills Temelin and replaces him with Kaelton, Rudiger, who informed them about James. Carlone orders Kaelton and his team to take quick action. As he knows that James died a few years ago, it means someone is using James's name for business in the underworld. Carlone is a merciless leader. He orders the killing of some slumdogs and leaves others to complete the business. Hans is visiting our protagonist in the park and informs him about the business. It's going very well. Rudiger is suspicious about the merchants. Now he requires details about the business. It's all about the merchants. It started with them creating problems, but now, all of a sudden, they are quiet. It feels like they are onto something. Hans is unable to find details about their actions but has some assumptions. Yes, it's about the Silver Sun. In the beginning, they were working in the dark, but now they've grown into a mafia corporation. They are generating money from criminal activities. According to the Rat's information, some merchants are visiting Silver Sun's building. Rudiger tells Hans that they can't ignore Silver Sun, and he is going to keep an eye on them. Hans is worried about Rudiger's nervousness, as he is shaking his legs constantly. Rudiger admits that he forgot some very important matters because of yesterday's events. The professor is thinking about his master and the chance that she will find him, as he consumed her blood last night during his fight with the fire monster. A beautiful woman in a castle is thinking about why Rudiger used his master's blood last night. As she knows, the consumption of her blood will inform her about his location. Now she wants to go after him. She calls Rudiger her disciple. In the park, Hans laughs about Rudiger's worries, reminding him that his teacher is called the Goddess of Death. Clearly, Rudiger is not enjoying Hans's jokes. The professor admits that he learned all his magic from his teacher. Hans thought he learned them by himself because he is a genius. Rudiger explains that he learned from her and also created some of his own tricks. Most of his magic compositions were rejected by his teacher, which is why he never talks about his own work. Rudiger remembers his teacher as a lady monster, and because of her, he almost died several times. Hans is confused when Rudiger calls his teacher a monster and, on the other hand, doesn't say anything bad about her. After a few days, Rudiger is walking on Royal Street, waiting for a meeting with Hans. On the street, he notices some strange symbols. He recalls them as the Bretis Holy Nation priests. Now he understands that the fight for the succession is over. Things are happening faster than he thought. Now, he must make his move quickly. At Violetta's clothing store, the House of Verdi, our protagonist is sitting at a coffee table, and a young lady is serving him tea. She addresses him as the owner and informs him about Hans. He explains his early morning visit as he wants to check the situation on the streets. He is happy that the streets are full of people, even early in the morning. The young lady is surprised when she receives Rudiger's call for his visit. She is curious if he has a new job for her. He is more interested in the activities of the hecklers. The lady continues about the hecklers, saying they are called Silver Sun, and the Merchant Association is planning something big regarding them. Rudiger wants all the information about Silver Sun from Violetta. Suddenly, a man comes running and informs them about the ambush at the printing factory. In front of the printing factory, workers are trying to control the fire. Our protagonist is here with Violetta. The workers inform him about the white bandanas and their attack on the factory. Putting the fire out is his first priority. He wants to end it with his magic, but to everyone's surprise, the spirit stone left behind by the Quasimodo absorbs all the fire. The workers go inside to save others, but they are unable to find Dion and Mastella. The professor is worried about their safety and needs help from Violetta to find them. She knows a place where they might be, so she leaves for that building, leaving the factory to the professor. When our protagonist enters the factory, he sees Dion and his granddaughter among the many dead workers, but the granddaughter is still alive. She informs Rudiger that some strange-looking people attacked them. Now her grandfather is badly injured. She cries, saying that she wants to live like an ordinary person. Rudiger tells Mastella to wait outside the building for him and assures her that he will do everything he can. Now he is releasing the seal, and for that he wants help from Dion, which Dion agrees to. After some time, Rudiger and injured Dion are walking out of the building. Dion's granddaughter is very happy to see him well and saved. Hans is waiting for Rudiger outside the building. The professor shows them a pocket watch, which he finds where Dion and Mastella were laying. It's the symbol of the Silver Sun. Rudiger decides to go after the Silver Sun organization. Our hero is confident that he can take care of the organization alone, so he goes after them alone. In the outskirts of Royal Street, in front of Carlone's estate, two guards are standing and waiting for the next shift to come. Suddenly, they see a man walking toward them. It's our protagonist. He knocks out the guards, breaks the main door, and enters the building. On his way to the main hall, he kills several guards with his sword. Inside the dining room, Carlone is sitting in his chair very peacefully. When he sees Rudiger, he tells him that he's expecting him and wonders whether he likes the gift he sent him this morning. He's talking about the blast at the factory. He invites Rudiger to sit with him and talk. Carlone is totally calm and shows no fear of Rudiger. Rudiger wonders how he rose to power because he thinks Carlone is making foolish mistakes. Suddenly, too many members of the Silver Sun organization appear in the room and surround our hero. The Silver Sun leader informs Rudiger that these men are all knight-ranked fighters. Now, the leader demands Rudiger's surrender, but Rudiger has already sent his team to the back alley. He calls Carlone a man with very low standards, and he is really surprised by it. In the alleyway, Rudiger's entire team is beating up the Silver Sun organization. Inside, no one dares to make the first attack on Rudiger. The professor is still sitting in his chair very peacefully, but there's still no attack from the guards. Carlone orders to end him now. Suddenly, from the ceiling of the room, large black tentacles start attacking the Silver Sun organization one by one. Rudiger introduces these black tentacles as gods, and the power behind them as a goddess who owns them, and that she still loves humans so much that she frames her physical body into humans. Rudiger made a deal with her after she saved Dion. Now Rudiger presents all these men of the Silver Sun as offerings to the goddess. In the dark alleyway, Rudiger's team kills all the members of the Silver Sun gang. They are talking about how easy it is. These men stand no chance against them. It's the planning of Violetta, who called them for help and is accepting that the Silver Sun gang will try to kill her. Now the alleyway is a complete mess, filled with the bodies of Silver Sun members. The female dwarf is angry at Hans for calling her a kid. Hans is surprised to see Rudiger coming out of the estate unharmed, as he finished them all by himself. Violetta informs them that Dion is fine and getting healthier than before. It's a fast recovery. The Silver Sun is completely annihilated. Now Rudiger leaves Violetta to take care of the businesses affiliated with the Silver Sun, as no one will bother her again. Suddenly the workers from the factory arrive there, but to their surprise, they have already been killed. Rudiger is thankful to everyone who participated in that action against the Silver Sun. The next day, a lady in her luxurious car is traveling in the outskirts of Royal Street. She shows her curiosity about the disappearance of the entire Silver Sun organization, including their boss, Carlone. She asks for information from her assistant, Enya. According to her information, the Leatherbelk slums are involved in it. The rich woman is surprised because the scene is clean, and there is no blood at all. Enya is surprised to see a newly developed artifact that can analyze the surrounding mana and read the memories stored in it. Now, it can help them solve all the mysteries where mana is involved. The lady captain explains to her assistant that this object only works within 36 hours of the incident, so they have to act fast now. The captain knows their leader's name, as everyone calls him the owner. After the disappearance of the Silver Sun in Leatherbelk, he completely took over all the underground world businesses by uniting all the other organizations. The captain wants to know more information about this new leader of the underground businesses. Her assistant is unable to find any trace about his past. They have no idea about his motives, but he is their prime suspect now. The artifact suddenly stops working, which means that there is no involvement of mana there. But the captain is curious about who can kill more than 100 guards without using mana. The captain understands that any further investigations are useless. Now, she must meet the person named the owner. Suddenly, Captain Tarina senses the presence of an invisible person there. She pulls her sword out and challenges it. To her surprise, it's Casey and her assistant Betty hiding in the room with their magic powers. They appear in front of them. Captain Tarina is happy to see them and welcomes them with open arms. They are seeing each other after the Kunst auction house event, but it's a restricted area for civilians, so the captain demands answers from Casey. Casey replies that as the nation's official detective, she is not a civilian. Tarina advises Casey to get an official permission letter before investigating crime scenes next time and stop hiding and sneaking like this. Casey offers her help, but Tarina declines because it's not allowed to get private help on cases like that. Now Casey wants to borrow the artifact from Tarina, which she accepts. After receiving that object, Casey assures her that she will be the first to know of any developments in her inquiry. She leaves from there, and all of a sudden she disappears. Now Tarina leaves with her team to the slums. Hans rats were present all the time and inform Rudiger about the incident in detail. Our protagonist decides to meet Tarina personally by using a mask. He orders Hans to inform Violetta to start the preparations. Captain Tarina and her assistant are walking and observing the slum area. They notice that the area has completely changed and looks new. The people working there are very harsh toward them. Maybe the people in the alley don't like knights. Violetta welcomes the Nightcrawler Knights and informs them that she is their escort for today, because the owner ordered her to do so. Tarina is curious if it's an ambush. Finally, the Knights decide to follow Tarina. She takes the guests to the fake hideout of UN. Inside, the owner himself welcomes them, but to their surprise, he is wearing a mask. He explains that he got some burns on his face, which is why he wears the mask. The captain demands to know his real name. Rudiger introduces himself as Oliver from the alleys. Tarina inquires about his sudden appearance at that time and why a suspicious person established the alley and got rid of his enemies. Our protagonist informs her that he was actually hiding from the Silver Sun, and now that they are gone, he appears again. Tarina has a strong feeling that Oliver is faking everything. The captain decides to get straight to the point and starts inquiring about the sudden disappearance of the Silver Sun gang. Oliver explains that the Silver Sun was bothering the people in the slums first, and that's the reason behind her suspicion toward him. He also mentions that the Silver Sun organization had many enemies, and it's better for the city that people with such a bad history disappear. He continues by saying that the noble Nightcrawler Knights suspect him while protecting the others. The confidence and fearlessness of our protagonist surprise the Knights. Even the captain has been making threats to him since she started the conversation. Now Tarina understands the harsh behavior of the people in the alley is because he is their hero. She now wants to avoid a confrontation with the people of the alley, so she decides to leave Oliver's office for now. As they are leaving his office, Alex and Enya come face to face with each other. She recognizes him and calls his name. Rudiger is unsettled by their encounter, as he wasn't expecting him to return so soon. Enya wants to know from Alex the reason for his presence here, as he should be in his hometown right now. But Alex shows interest in her by saying it's over between them, and she can leave. This makes Enya very sad. Now, Alex apologizes to his boss for opening the door without asking first. Now everyone knows about his relationship with Enya. Hans is angry at Alex because he knows Enya and Alex were colleagues at the night training school, and there are rumors about Alex being dishonorably discharged from the school. Now, all his team wants to know the reason behind it. Alex explains that the reason is he and one of his fellow cadets hit an instructor just a few days before the inaugural ceremony. It's because he performed better than the noble cadets, so they got jealous of him and kept creating discomforts for him for 3 years. One day, he had enough and took action. Now Phantos wants to know about Enya's reaction after seeing him. Finally, Alex reveals that she and he were lovers. At first, they were just acting like rival cadets. But one day, when he decided to protect her, she and Alex started feeling for each other and fell in love. It's hard for a commoner to love a noble girl. Suddenly, the bullying starts, and he keeps protecting Enya. So finally, he decides to purposely show her that he is cheating on her with someone and breaks up with her. He admits that as a commoner, he was too ambitious and arrogant. On their way back, Captain Tarina and Enya are talking about Alex. Tarina is upset by seeing Alex wandering in the alleys. Enya has already decided to move on, as there is nothing left between them. One day, while walking on the streets, Rudiger finds Alex drunk and beaten up by some useless men. The professor can easily see that Alex can beat those men very easily, yet he chooses not to fight. So he offers him to work for him and promises to provide everything he wants. Alex admits that if Rudiger did not take him under his wing, he could have died like a homeless person. Now all the team members want their leader to tell them his life story. The professor tells them that one day he is going to tell them everything about the relics. Now everyone listens to him carefully. Rudiger wonders if they ever feel the world as a huge cage or if they feel suffocated. He explains that he is gathering the pieces of the relics to destroy the oppressing cage. Alex wonders if it's to destroy the world. Our hero assures him that it's not the case. The team also wants to know the reason behind the changing of his name. He explains about the people who created the relic, and after that, they didn't want it. He also mentions Lupin and Van Helsing. Finally, our protagonist decides to introduce himself with his real name. Rennie wakes up from sleep in her room and finds a girl standing near her bed. Rennie recognizes her as Julia, the top first-year applicant. Rennie can feel her strong energy in her room. Soon, Rennie finds out that she was just lured into her dream. It's dream magic, in which people can enter other people's dreams or see amazing dreams. The girl recognizes Rennie as a student and assistant of Professor Rudiger Chelsea. Julia explains this magic is a lot easier than any other magic. It's Rennie's first time seeing someone like that. She only hears rumors about them and reads some books on the topic. Rennie is happy to meet Julia in a dream and calls her a dream fairy. Rennie is curious since they both don't know each other, so how could she enter her dreams? Julia explains that it's between dream and reality, and she only came here because it feels interesting. Julia wants to know about Rennie's strange dream when she came here. Rennie explains it's about her young age when she was happy and sad at the same time. Julia explains that as a dream walker, it's possible that it's not a dream because dreams are the projection of reality, and her dreams are glimpses of her past life. Julia puts her hand on Rennie's head, and Rennie sees some very faint memories. Rennie confirms that she is always with someone in her dreams, but she doesn't remember anything about it. That's the reason she doesn't have any dreams. Julia informs her that her memories are forcefully sealed by someone. Rennie is curious who can do that to her. Julia wonders if she did something connected to her memories. Maybe it's because she did memory storming with Senior Arendir. Rennie asks for Julia's help to break the seal on her memories, but Julia is helpless to do anything about it. However, she can find a way to get a key that is linked to her memories in her dreams. Julia wants her to try and remember something from her dreams. Rennie only remembers the name Heathcliff Van Brettis. Rudiger Chelsea reveals his true identity in front of his team. He introduces himself as a member of the royal family of the Brettis Holy Nation, and as the son of the previous king. Inside Rennie's room, Julia and Rennie are still talking about Heathcliff. It's the first time Julia is hearing this name. Well, that's the person who comes in Rennie's dreams. Julia needs more information in order to help her. Suddenly, Julia's body starts fainting. Rennie inquires about it, and she replies that she is about to wake up now, and she must leave from here. Rennie is happy and excited by Julia's visit. She wants Julia to visit again, but Julia refuses and makes it clear that she has no intentions to become her friend. Even if Rennie wants her to visit again, she'll need to pique her interest and leaves from there. Now Rennie is thinking about the name Heathcliff and where she can find that person. Right now, Alex's head is spinning after hearing that Rudiger is the son of the previous emperor. Because being from the bloodline of the emperor, Rudiger has an unnecessary ability that makes his body easy to possess, and it only happens to him in his entire bloodline. Rudiger thinks that it's a curse for him. The reason behind his wandering is to stay away from his own bloodline and survive. Rudiger continues that when his father's health declines, the question of the next emperor comes to everyone's mind, and he becomes the #1 person to be killed by his enemies. The reason he is tolerant to drugs is that he has been poisoned countless times. After 20 years, the Brettis kingdom resumes their activities. It means they have decided on their emperor. If the news that he is still alive reaches the interim emperor, he will try his best to kill him. Right now, Betty is cleaning Casey's room and is very angry at her because she never cleans it herself. Betty wants her to stay out as long as she is cleaning her room. It's very dirty, and Casey should be happy that she has a partner who is living with her. Casey is looking at the map and pictures on her wall, which were placed there during the investigation. She is thinking about all the links, the werewolves, the destruction of the abundant factory, the Kunst auction house attack, the beast of Gavaudan, and don't forget about the Black Dawn. And now, the missing persons case of the Silver Sun. The latest developments in the slums lead Casey to decide to leave all of it to Tarina and focus her attention only on the Black Dawn for now. She got some clues from the Thorns Underground newspaper's office. She is suspicious about the area of Valtong and is sure that she is going to find something about James Moriarty there. The professor is talking to his assistant in his office and telling her to only focus on the work he told her to do. Rudiger receives the letter of invitation from the Mystical Knights, an annual function where mages gather from various regions. Rennie is happy because they finally recognize the true value of her professor. Another letter comes from the Old and New Magic Towers and the Scholars Associations. The magic world is divided into 3 worlds: the Old Magic Tower, the New Magic Tower, and the Scholars Association. It is very surprising for Rudiger to be invited by all the organizations at the same time. Now, he doesn't want to take anyone's side and make others his enemies. All the organizations also send him gifts. Rennie suggests that the professor see the gifts before choosing which one to visit. Our protagonist decides to accept all the gifts because they all send him gifts, showing that he is more important to them. Rennie is annoyed by the behavior of our hero. It always comes to Rudiger's mind whether she is loyal to him or just to the First Order. Professor Viorano wants to intern at Rudiger's office, and to his surprise, she wants to see his assistant, Senida. Viorano is inquiring about the work she gives to Renée. Renée excuses herself from the work and leaves the office as she has some classes to attend. After she leaves the office, Professor Viorano informs Rudiger that she is related to his assistant, Senida. As our protagonist is very close to Renée and she really trusts him, Professor Viorano tells him very frankly that she is half elven. She is offering Senida the chance to visit the elven village with her, and only Rudiger can help her with it. The professor goes into his assistant's office, where she is planting many plants. Actually, it's her childhood hobby. Rudiger explains to Senida that he respects her decision of living away from her family if she doesn't feel good with them, and he is going to take care of the problems of the organization in her absence. Senida apologizes to him for hiding her identity, as he is very kind to her. Now she wants to follow Rudiger's footsteps. Our protagonist says that it's the right time to show his true identity to Senida, so he informs her that he is not a First Order. Our professor is remembering the details given by Professor Viorano about Senida, that her father is a nobleman and her mother is an elf. It's the time of war between species when the Lashan family buys some elven slaves, but keep in mind it's just a rumor. It means Senida's birth is not very positive. Viorano wants to save her from her family and take her to the elven place. Now, the professor is thinking that if she returns to the elven village, they could victimize her because of her half-human blood, and maybe an elder from the forest can save her. Professor Viorano is one of the 7 roots of the World Tree and the head of the Dentist family. It was their role to protect the borders of the elven forest, so it's her responsibility to protect Senida. She demands Rudiger pursue her, but our protagonist refuses to do it, because it's Senida's choice where she wants to live. Now the professor explains why she is asking him to pursue her. When Viorano asked Senida, she made it clear to her that first she wants Rudiger's advice on the matter. Now the professor wants to know what Senida really wants. The professor explains to his assistant Senida that John Doe from the Order, whom she is looking for, is already dead in a terrorist attack on the train, and someone is just using his identity. Senida is angry, feeling that she's been fooled. Rudiger calms her down by explaining his good intentions. Senida turns her face away from the professor, still thinking he's tricking her. Rudiger apologizes for deceiving her this whole time. Our protagonist wants to know from Senida if she is following him or the First Order. She replies it's the Black Dawn. The professor waits for her reaction and explains that he can hide his identity until the end, but he wants to be honest with her. Senida decides to follow Professor Rudiger because he is the one who acknowledges her identity. The professor stays calm and relaxed, offering her the choice between him and the Black Dawn. Rudiger wonders if she came to seek revenge for her family or if she's a spy. Senida now reflects on why the Black Dawn chose her. They could easily use the Lashan family name, but she joined the First Order because she was pushed aside. She strongly feels she has no respect for the organization, but Rudiger is different. He accepts her as she is and always respects her opinions. Now she is calm and asks about the professor's true identity. He assures her that he will tell her everything later. Now it's Senida's turn to reintroduce herself to the professor. Her real name is Senida Flante. The professor realizes it's her mother's surname. He suggests that she keep up the act since both are still affiliated with the Black Dawn. Rudiger makes his motives clear. He wants to eradicate the Black Dawn and needs more detailed information about them. He then wants to introduce someone to her. On her way to class, Professor Viorano thinks about the request Senida made to Rudiger, and she's sure of its outcome. It surprises her to find out that a family member of the Flante family is in the academy, the missing daughter of the Flante family, and how the Lashan family secretly bought her as a slave before Senida's birth. She also thinks about the possibility of her return, having faced discrimination and persecution from her family. She has no choice but to trust Professor Rudiger. She decides to give him special tea from the Elven Forest. Rudiger takes Senida to meet her team members and introduces her to them. He already has a member who is half-elf, and she recognizes Senida quickly. When Hans learns about her role as a spy in the Black Dawn's organization, he gets a little jealous of her. The professor announces that, from now on, she is part of their family. Hans is curious about the reason for Rudiger's personal visit. The professor explains that, first, he wants to introduce Senida, and second, he wants to know about the relic. They've already found one piece at the auction house, but there are 3 more to find. One fragment might be in Lindenborough, the capital. Rudiger wants the exact location of the relic in the capital. Hans confirms its location through a process of elimination. It's at the Exilian Empire's Debalt Castle. Hans wants to know if Senida will be able to do the task while working as a teacher's assistant. It's time for Senida to get ready. She wonders what they're planning to do next. The professor explains that they're going to get rid of the Black Dawn. A few days later, our protagonist walks inside the Valtenung area. It's an abandoned factory, a perfect spot to hide from suspicious people. Rudiger knows the factory but is still wondering where the Black Dawn's associates are hiding. Suddenly, he smells chemicals coming from an underground waterway. Rudiger hears a female voice from behind, asking about his presence there. It's Casey Selmoy. Both ask the same thing from each other regarding their purpose there. The professor explains that he has information about the person involved in the fire during the festival. Casey confirms that he's there for the same person. She senses the same kind of mana. Our protagonist thinks it means she still has his card with her. Casey demands the professor stop his act and admit that it's him, James, because a new professor wouldn't investigate the person behind the incident on his own. She wants him to be honest with her now. James Moriarty. She figures out his real identity. The professor is very surprised to see Casey attacking him right away, which he blocks very easily. In the blink of an eye, Rudiger is sitting on Casey and warns her that if she moves, he will make a hole in her neck. Casey attacks back with her water magic swords on the professor and challenges him to see who is faster. But all of a sudden, her magic disappears into the air, which frustrates her even more. Our protagonist is way more powerful than her. He grabs a rat and puts it close to Casey's face, scaring her to death. She forgets all her magic. Rudiger throws the rat and starts leaving with a smile on his face, telling her in a taunting voice that's why he never fights with her. Now Casey becomes angrier. She threatens to inform the police about him. Our heroes know that if she really wanted to do it, she would have already done it. Rudiger has no time to play games with her anymore and tells her that he's looking for the hideout of Black Dawn, so she should get lost. Rudiger jumps into the hole and blocks the entrance with magic so Casey can't follow him. She has already gathered enough mana by chasing the professor, and now she decides to use it to research the professor's past. Inside the factory, our protagonist is standing in a research lab, with the bodies of his enemies all around him. Suddenly, a giant appears in front of him, and he recognizes him as Malrock, the Night Slayer, but the stench of the chemicals stings his nose. He notices a Paluma plant where they are creating drugs. He wants to check their data. There's a safe over there, so he moves toward it. Suddenly, the mad doctor comes to check the lab. To his surprise, an uninvited guest is already there. Rudiger remembers that before leaving the academy, his assistant, Sunita, informed him about the presence of Victor Dreadpool in the factory. He's one of the 4 First Orders, dresses like a scientist, and is a middle-aged man who doesn't hide his identity. As our protagonist sees him, he shoots, but suddenly a golden-colored wall appears in front of them. It's a liquid golem. Victor Dreadpool is very relaxed and confident. He starts explaining about his product, a transformation of alchemy and metal, a sort of magic. Now, he orders his liquid golem to finish the professor. As the golem attacks him, our protagonist finds his chance and appears behind Victor. But to his surprise, Victor disappears with space teleportation. Suddenly, a huge knight appears, completely covered in armor and holding a very large sword. Victor thanks Knight Baron for saving him. Knight Baron is very angry at Victor for not taking care of the intruder himself. Our protagonist is surprised and wonders if the knight is also a First Order. Victor is surprised by Rudiger's skills and how he can understand his attacks just by seeing him. Now Victor is curious and wants to know more about his skills. Suddenly the knight attacks the professor, but the professor escapes very narrowly. The knight suggests to Victor not to be too excited about his skills and to remember that he is still an intruder. But Victor wants to capture our professor alive. Victor sends 2 of his magical soldiers to capture Rudiger. Rudiger creates some distance between them. The knight attacks Rudiger with the 2 soldiers. The protagonist has no other choice but to retreat first. Crazy Victor is laughing and wondering about the next move of Rudiger. The knight is worried about the situation and advises Victor to get back to defense quickly. Our protagonist uses the 8th Sephira, Horde. A very bright ray of light comes out of his hands, followed by a large explosion. Everything around them explodes and Rudiger escapes. The explosion completely destroys the building. Now the knight and Victor are standing in the ruins of the building. Victor is getting crazy to know that all his research papers from the safe are gone. The knight, Verome, was supposed to protect this data with his life, but now it's all gone. They wonder when the professor took these documents. Now, our protagonist is sitting on the roof of a building far away from Victor, thinking about his weak magic attack. Because of his weakness, both of them survived. He obtained the documents when both of them were blinded by his magic. These are the reports of Black Dawn's experiments. It's about special gunpowder and turning humans into werewolves. There is a lot more to it. There's also a report about a 3-year-old experiment on automaton experiments in Delica Kingdom. Our protagonist is sitting in his office at the academy, still thinking about the automaton experiment and the involvement of Black Dawn in it. In the city, a boy is thanking the professor for his help and offering his services. Our protagonist is also happy with his help. The boy wants to call Rudiger his teacher and informs him about the offer letter he received from Ordo University, a prestigious academy in the kingdom. The professor is very happy for him. Suddenly, Wilford enters the professor's office and informs him about the chancellor's request to meet her now. To Rudiger's surprise, the chancellor wants to recommend him for the position of the head of planning, a vacant position that has been open for a long time. This position holds a lot of authority. The professor wonders about his selection. The chancellor explains to him that it's because of his services to the academy and as an acknowledgement of his skills. Rudiger is still not sure whether she trusts him or not, and yet she is offering him that authority. There's a possibility that she wants him on her side so that she can keep an eye on him. He also understands that it's an opportunity for him to learn about the activities happening inside the academy. The professor appreciates the chancellor's offer. The chancellor laughs and replies that she can only recommend him, and now it's up to him to prove himself for this opportunity. She gives him 6 months for preparations, but Rudiger surprises her by saying that he only needs 1 week. The professor explains to her about his ongoing research, and after completing it, he will show her the results. Now, he excuses her because his class is waiting for him. Rudiger is concluding his lecture in the classroom and demanding that his students hand him their reports next week. Suddenly, Renée approaches the professor in the classroom. Rudiger is not happy because Renée leaves her seat without his permission. Renée is unable to understand the formula and wants some explanations. After reading the paper, the professor explains to her that the formula she is using is completely twisted, but it's not complete enough to be fixed. Renée is thinking about why Rudiger always looks familiar to her. From her unknown memories, she suddenly says a name, Heathcliff. The professor is surprised to hear that word from her mouth and demands an explanation for it. Renée explains that she has been unable to sleep in recent nights and apologizes for this unknown word. Rudiger appreciates Renée's efforts for her studies, but she doesn't have to push herself too much. Renée is happy that the professor doesn't understand that Heathcliff is a name from her past memories. Now confused, Renée is standing near the classroom gate, thinking about her condition. Students are reading the notice board where Rudiger's assistant has posted a notice for recruiting participants for clinical studies. The chancellor is reading a report in her office. This report is from Rudiger about artificially increasing the amount of magic being released. The chancellor is thinking that if he succeeds, not only will he be able to become the head of planning, but all the magical work will appreciate him. She has no idea when Rudiger started researching this topic. Now she really wants to know the professor's real identity and is curious about it.